Julian Morales.
Yep.
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, it's cool that we finally got to do something like this because, every time we've met, rather virtually or in person, when you go to film festivals and stuff, there's a handful of people that you kind of connect with more than the others, and I felt like every time we've been in a situation where it's at a festival or a virtual meet and greet or whatever, that we've always kind of had similar wavelengths of thought and just a general admiration for film. So I'm really glad that you were able to come on and talk with me, bro. So thanks again.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on. And I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. I think the first time we met was the 2018 Hollywood Florida Film Festival because you were there for Imperium, right? That's the
Right.
name. Okay, I didn't
Hmm.
get that wrong because I love that film. We're gonna talk about it later. But because I remember I was there and your screening was at like this nice little restaurant venue,
Right.
and it screened because like something that because that was the first film festival I'd ever gotten into, and I was looking around and I was actually shocked because there was a lot of people who were like, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but it was a lot of people who were like have a lot more years than I do,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh wow, like because I don't know what I was thinking. I was kind of like, oh, it's gonna be like people in their 20s, and it wasn't. And I was like, oh shit. So like I immediately got like intimidated when I was there because I was like, oh man, these people have been doing this for years, and ah shit. And and then
Yeah.
so I saw you, and I was like, okay, I'm not the only child here, and and then I saw your film. I saw the screening because like I was with my former producing partner, and when Electric Dreaming came up, like the name of your production company, I was like, this guy likes Blade Runner, so we got to meet him. And then uh, the film screened, and it was such a great film. It was awesome. And I think the first thing I said is I went up to you and I was like, "You must be a Blade Runner fan." And then immediately it was off. So yeah, so that was a fun night. That was a fun screening. And
Yeah.
yeah, no. Do you have any particular member? Oh, I mean, I know a member you're gonna bring up. You fucking won Best Director. But any particular fun memories or fun times while you were at that first Hollywood Florida Festival?
I remember being in the audience when you won Best Actor. But it's funny that you bring that up, the whole thing with the age difference, because I was thinking the same thing. Because I thought like maybe there'd be some other college age students, but then it was just you, and then everyone else, yeah, like everyone else was like, yeah, like I don't mean this in insulting way, everyone else was middle age, and I was the only
Mm-hmm.
one that was like in their 20s and in college, and then everyone like had like more like professional,
Mm-hmm.
like
They had
that a more
budgets.
professional production. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then me, I was working on this like micro indie budget that I paid out of my own pocket, and I'm
Yeah.
like, do we even stand a chance? And so yeah, I remember that being kind of nerve wracking, and but yeah, I mean, I remember that. I remember us meeting, and I remember, yeah, it was just like this really great night, and it was my first film festival too. So I didn't realize that it was yours also, but
Mhm.
yeah, I just remember that it was a good night, and also very nerve wracking because I had never shown it to anyone besides like my family or friends before. So
Mhm.
I was like cowering in my seat when it was playing, but it did pretty good. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
happy
no,
that.
I know the feeling because at the time I was working in a kitchen, like a movie theater kitchen,
Mm,
and I would have my phone on the counter, which you're obviously not supposed to do, but I had my phone on like the counter away from the food. Anyone listening? And I would get emails, and it would just be like another like film freeway rejection, and I'd be like, "God damn it!" And
uh
I'd like wipe it off, and then I'd go back to
yeah,
cooking. And then one day, it went off, and it was like Hollywood Florida Film Festival, like you're in, and I was like, oh, and I like freaked out in the kitchen. I was like,
yeah.
"Yes, finally!" And then we, we got to go, we got to do the whole thing. Uh, Winning Best Actor, that was very kind of them. It was very undeserving because when you watch all those films, like there were so many great actors there. And what I think it is, I think I fooled them because when I got there, I was just like this deer in headlights, like, oh my god, I'm at a film festival, like, wow, this is so great, it's so nice to
Yeah.
meet you, blah blah blah. And then they watch the movie and I'm like this stoic, like,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think they were
Full
like,
Keanu Reeves.
yeah. Yes. And they were just like,
Yeah.
wow. And so that was such a surprise and it was awesome. And I was happy when you won Best Director because your film was directed amazingly. And
Thanks.
speaking, we're going to talk about your films and my films and just film in general, while you're here. But go into a little bit about Imperium and just, do you have any, like, what inspired you to tell that story? Were there any fun behind the scenes type things that happened, that, or a problem you ran into where you wouldn't have even known in the final product unless you pointed it out, something like that?
Mm. Uh, well, uh, well, as you mentioned before, it's actually it was a big running joke when I was in film school that I was this massive Blade Runner nerd that was obsessed with it, and I kept bringing it up, and I kept pulling it into my projects, and everyone was like, "Can you like, try to like watch something else or whatever?" But Blade Runner is just my favorite, and it still is. So watching that. It did inspire me from the get-go because when I saw Blade Runner for the first time, that was the movie that made me go like, yeah, I want to direct movies. Besides being in film school, because when I went to film school, I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do. But it was basically a combination of those two things that I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want. Okay, so that was that. And then I saw Ex Machina for like the 10 billionth time. But I noticed something different on that day when I saw it that time. Because I don't know if you remember the movie like like by heart, but there's the this like side character in the movie, Kyoko, that's like spoiler, that's also an android in the film. And I
Mm-hmm.
started paying attention to her character more this time when I was watching it. And I kind of noticed that like her story is like super interesting because like if you hadn't seen the film, she's basically an android that's created by Oscar Isaac's character, and it seems like she's just there to be like her housemaid or just her sex doll basically.
Mm-hmm.
And and like it kind of seemed like she's not really okay with that, and she's kind of was finding trying to find a way out of that. And I thought that was really interesting and really dark and twisted, and I thought like that would make a really good short film if I could do that. So then after that, I started writing it, and I wrote it with my best friend, Miles. We wrote it together, and we spent like all like I think it was the spring, like we were just writing it together. And then after that, I finished film one, which is like the first term of film school for me, where
Mm-hmm.
we learned like the production and all that. And that was when I got the bug, and then I was like, let me see if I really like this. So basically, during the summer, in between terms, I decided that I wanted to, make a short film outside of film school to see if it was something that I really wanted to do. And then I ended up liking it, and then we made it. So basically, it was the inspiration was like a combination of Blade Runner and Ex Machina, which is very apparent when you watch it, and and making it it was good. It was good overall looking back on it, although it was this very stressful production because I only had a weekend to shoot it at a car dealership that my dad worked at as in like the IT department. So I was able to gain access to like one of their private rooms for like conferences, and then also like the IT department themselves, where I was able to get into like their like server room, which was really cool. And so we had this time constraint because we had to shoot after they closed up. So we only had like from like 9 to 12, and it was only for a weekend. So we had that the clock was ticking all the time, so it was kind of stressing me a bit. But I tried to not let it get to me too much. But what ended up getting to me a bit more was that I just got way too much equipment and got way too much crew for this thing that is that should have been really simple to make. And looking back on it, and if I would have done it again, I would have done it differently. And not to blame anyone, but because it was me, because I was the one saying like, oh, give me more, give me more. give me more equipment, give me all these people, because I thought that that's what I needed.
Mhm.
And it just like really like slowed down production because of like everything that I was trying to uh basically keep an eye on, or try to like, you know, stay like on top of. Because like on the first day, I remember specifically, because it was really defeating for me, that we were supposed to get 3 scenes done, and instead we only got like 3 shots done in 3 hours. And I was
I'm
like,
not laughing at you. I'm just like,
no, 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 I laugh
I
at, no, no,
know
no.
the pain of like that
Yeah,
happening. It's horrible.
yeah, it was terrible. I was like, I think we should stop. But you know, but I kept going, and then the next days I had to, you know, really like, you know, stress the fact that we only had a, you know, a limited amount of time, and we had to move quickly. And then after that, then we were able to get more done. And then the thing I learned, well, besides what I just said, that like, you know, not getting too much stuff for something that's, you know, simple or short, but I learned during that shoot, because on the last day, my like most of my crew, for whatever reason, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know, but they all arrived late, like an hour late, and I couldn't, you know, wait for them. So I had to just, you know, and you know, thankfully I already started shooting at a different location for the scene that was like the flashback, where it was
Mhm.
like on like at a park. So I was already shooting that, and I arrived, and you know, they were all late, and they couldn't wait. So I had all the equipment. So I just basically did it all myself with some of the additional casts that they weren't, you know, being filmed for those scenes. They were there like basically as the crew, like 2 other people basically. And when we were shooting for that hour, we got so much done. Like I think we got a third of the work done just in an hour. And that was when I realized, like, oh, like for me personally, like I don't need like a truckload of equipment. I don't need, you know, like droves of people. I could just do it with like 2 or 3 extra people or one other person. So from then on, that's how I started running my productions. Like, you know, very simple, very micro budget, and minimal equipment, and like a skeleton crew.
Mhm.
Like most of the time now, well, like the past few films, the past couple I've done, I've only had one other person as crew basically.
Mhm.
And it's just, I mean, I know, like, you know, not everyone, you know, can do that, but for me, I just found it very liberating, and you know, just works for me for like the projects that I do.
Yeah. No, I completely see that. I completely know what you mean. You know, it's funny you bring that up of just like, you know, you get defeated when you have like one thing planned and then you
Yeah.
see what actually gets done. And then not only that, but maybe you learned the same thing because like when I did film school, it was very like I'm not trying to disparage film school,
Yeah.
but there are tons of things that I learned where I'm like I'm so glad that someone taught me that. And then there's tons of things that I was told where it's like I'm glad they told me that because now I know to never listen to that. And one of the things was, you know, one of the early things at the gate is I had a professor tell me like never ever make movies with your friends.
Mm,
And like on paper, like when they were mentioning that, I was like, oh yeah, like I can see how that, you know, blah blah blah. But
yeah.
all of my films have been made with my friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not out of like, oh, I'm only casting them or only having them work behind the scenes because they're my friends, but it's just because they've earned that skeleton crew trust, like that ragtag team trust, to where
Right.
like if these guys are around me, I know that the film is gonna be better because they're
Right.
here and because they're helping. Like sometimes, I had a really good friend of mine who worked on one of our films who just hung out, like
Mm,
just like wow, because like that was when we were making Contrition, which, you know, they had one person in the cast and it really wasn't much, but I had people there just to be there. And it's just
mm,
because sometimes I operate better when my team is around me. And
mm.
you know, because I have an amazing cinematographer who, you know, with the Contrition specifically, he was on the lights. He was like, "This is how this shit runs. Nobody touch it," and it was just how he was doing it. And then I had a bunch of
Yeah.
people standing around, and I felt bad, but I was just like, hey, like if you guys don't have anything better to do, I'd like for you to stick around just because it makes me more comfortable. And so,
Mm.
just the fact that I have crew even willing to do that, like why would I ever not use them? Like it doesn't make sense to not like use your friends in that way. And uh speaking of like filming troubles, when we did No More Safe Haven, which was the film that was at the Imperium Festival,
Right.
horrible title. We literally, we literally, like I made that as like a filler title, and
uh,
then we got the whole crew together and we're like, all right, everyone write down 10 titles and we're going to use the best one. And for whatever reason, none of us thought of one that like, because we didn't want it to be too on the nose and we didn't want it to, so we were just like, ah, fuck it, I guess No More Safe Haven. And
uh,
then but when we were filming that, I got to utilize a conference room, but it was at UCF. I was part of a club, and like the club was off campus in this building. And so
yeah.
I asked the person who owned the building, I was like, hey, like I'm trying to make like an independent film. Can we film in there? And they said, sure. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna be open and honest with you about some stuff though, because like there's violence,
It's
there's
all fight
this.
scenes.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not gonna break anything, I'm not gonna do none of that. It's just and he was like, well, just don't like associate that you're part of anything that we're a part of, and it's fine. And I was like,
Mm.
great. And then but the funny thing was originally, and even in some of the choreography, it was kind of like there were some gun props involved, not for like shootouts, but for like disarming and stuff like that. And right, like maybe a week or two before we were about to film, I forget which one, but there was a mass shooting that had happened. Surprise, there was a mass shooting in America, and
Yeah.
basically we kind of all looked at each other and simultaneously were just like, we're not bringing any guns anywhere near anything school remotely related. No. So we were like, all right, let's adjust the choreography a little bit. So we came to my apartment, we adjusted it. We were like, all right, let's do it. And then we get there, and we only had 3 hours per day to film,
Mm.
which
Oh,
was,
sounds similar.
yeah, which was stressful as hell. And it was just like, so the person we asked to film there was never there, but he had someone from the building be there. And I would send them like script updates just so I just wanted to be open about everything that was in the movie. I didn't want them to be surprised, like if we were doing something and have them be like, what are you guys doing? And but the person who was there to like supervise, he just took the advantage of like working late, and he would just go in his office and work. But
Mm.
he never, turns out he never read any of the things that I sent him. So at one point he comes out to check on us, and like there's fake broken glass, there's people like bruises on the floor, and he just like comes out and he's just like, I'm and he just like went back into his office, and I was like, okay, at least he didn't stop us. And then
Yeah.
the worst part was, we'd been practicing the fights, not as much as we probably should have, but like we had it down. And when we were practicing, like everyone was good to go, and no one was too like out of breath. And then we were filming, and like first take, like we're like, and it was like, and we were like, Jesus Christ, are we this out of shape? Like, what the hell is going on here? And then we found out after we wrapped that the AC in that building shuts off at around the time we start filming every night.
uh,
And it was just like, that would have been awesome to know, to know
yeah.
going in. Cause like the whole time, like we were out of breath and we're like, Jesus, we need to go to the gym more or something, because this is ridiculous how tired we were getting.
Mm.
But yeah, no, that movie was fun to make. It's stupid that it even got made, and it made as quick as it did. Because like with every film I make now, I put a lot more time into it, and then I look back on that one and I'm like, how the hell did I even? How did that even happen? And like, obviously, it had like some John Wick and some Raid inspiration. Although we wish we were as good at choreographing fights as those franchises, but it was just it was super fun. The writing process didn't take too long because the nature of the movie, it's mostly just about there's not a lot of dialogue. It was mostly a peek into a character's past without fully revealing it. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of implied visual storytelling, and while I think I'm better at it than I actually am, it's just I just much prefer it over expository dialogue. And you know, something that you're really good at is visual storytelling as well, just from all the films that I've watched of yours. And it's just preferred. Like I'd rather fail at doing that than succeed at doing, you know, exposition dumps.
Yeah.
And it was really really fun to make, and I'm really glad. Like the Hollywood Photo Film Festival was awesome.
Mm.
And so going back, this conversation is going to go all over the place, so I'm so sorry. But you know, you mentioned Blade Runner being a big inspiration to you, and Ex Machina specifically for Imperium.
Mm.
In terms of just, you know, because when people, because like people ask me like, oh, like what movies inspired you, and it's like that's kind of a complicated question, because there are
Yeah.
some movies that made me just fall in love with movies, and then
Right.
there's completely different movies that made me want to make them.
Mm.
And it's like that question is different, like for me, because like I fell in love with movies long before I decided I wanted to try to make them. Like
Yeah.
at first I was just like, these are my favorite thing ever, and then it
Yeah.
eventually became, I'm gonna give a crack at this. And
Mm.
one, like, you know, everyone's got, you know, the movies that made me fall in love with movies, you know, anytime you watch Star Wars as a child, anytime, you know, the Richard Donner Superman 1978 Superman movie is still my shit to this day. You can kind of see
Yeah,
the
it's really good.
poster.
It's still great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see it. Yeah, see Superman. I think I see Star Wars behind
Oh yeah.
the pillar. I wasn't
Oh
sure,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah. No, we got all kinds of stuff back there. Uh, but yeah, and like Jaws is like probably my favorite movie, and you know,
Mm.
so those were all movies that made me want like to love movies. You know, and then you have movies like Kevin Smith's Clerks,
Mm.
where when I watch that movie, I'm like, and this isn't an insult. I'm just like, I could, I could have done that. I look at my friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, we could have done that. Like, why don't we do that? And then, you know,
Yeah.
and I love that movie. It's not an insult to it. And you know, and then there's other movies like I remember when I saw The Dark Knight on opening weekend, and
Mm.
the way that that movie like took me on an emotional roller coaster, and it was all like perfectly timed and manipulated. Like I, as an audience member, was manipulated to feel certain ways at certain times. And I remember
Mm.
watching that and being like, how in the hell do you make somebody feel something at minute 25, and then at minute 36 they have a completely different emotion going on? Like what happened in that gap? Like how? And
Yeah.
then so, you know, those kind of experiences got me really interested into filmmaking. And then there are like screenplays that made me want to be a writer, like When Harry Met Sally. Like when I saw that movie, I'm like,
Mm.
yo, whoever wrote this is a freaking genius. And just like, you know, all that kind of stuff. So basically, you know, are there any movies that, you know, Blade Runner notwithstanding, are there any
Mhm.
movies that made you just fall in love with the art of movies as compared to movies that made you want to take the next step to be a part of making them?
That's a good question. And also, it's probably going to be one where you're going to be here for a while because I have to
Of course.
figure
Yeah,
that.
go
But
ahead.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's funny. Well, like due to the lockdown, I've been thinking a lot about you know looking back at the past, and I kind of realized that this like film bug has always been in me. I just didn't know like what it was, or like or that or like how I would use it or whatever. Because I mean, because my earliest film memory was back when I lived in New Jersey when I was really young, and I remember 2002 Spider-Man came out, the original one by Sam Raimi, and
Fuck
I remember my
yes. I love
yeah, and
Spider-Man.
I remember that day so well. I remember my dad buckling me in the kiddie seat in the back because I was born in '97, so I was like 4 or 5 or something. And so I remember him buckling me in. I remember us in the minivan. I remember it was just me and dad. And then I remember me driving us to the theater. I remember us watching in the theater. I remember him taking me out of the theater when Green Goblin started beating the piss out of Spider-Man, and I couldn't see that. I remember that. But like ever since then, well, like at the time I thought it just started my fandom for Spider-Man. But looking back, I realized that that was just like the beginning in general for movies, because ever since then I just was like my favorite thing besides playing video games was watching movies. I mean, back then it was like superhero films or Harry Potter or Star Wars and all that. But then, like, you know, as I grew older, then, like, you know, I started becoming interested in different types of films. Like, I remember The Social Network came out, and it was getting the Oscar buzz, and my parents, well, my mom specifically, she's more like a cinephile. So like with her, like, she loves that, like, when like the Oscar buzz is happening, that she'll like rent the movies on Netflix and, like, watch them. And I remember, I think I saw the trailer for it when I was in the theater for something else, and I thought it was really interesting, the story, and I wanted to see it. And like, you want to see that? Like, you sure don't want to watch like Spider-Man 3 again or something? And but I was like, no, I actually want to see it. And like, they thought I wouldn't like it because that movie's all like talking. But like, I I remember then I thought it was like massively entertaining, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that like a movie that's just all it is people talking can be like so damn fun, and it still is like one of my favorite movies. Like, David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin are like filmmaking gods for me, and so
I
like,
can get behind that. I can get behind
yeah,
that, no
so
problem.
yeah, so I remember that, like, that was kind of like, when I was like, oh, like, okay, different movies could be fun. And then I remember I saw Skyfall, the Bond film, and I remember that was the first movie that I saw in theaters that made me actually pay attention to filmmaking. Like, because like before I was like, oh, that sound effect sounded cool, but I wasn't thinking about like the technicians or like sound mixers or editors or anything like that. Or like, oh, the visual effects are cool, but I wasn't thinking about like, the all these animators or anything like that. I wasn't thinking about any of that. Skyfall was like, wow, like, this is like really well framed, and the lighting is beautiful and everything. And basically that made me discover, cinematography, and then Roger Deakins,
Oh yeah,
because
the man.
the man. I mean, absolutely. And I remember that after that, then like the Oscars were around, and I remember it was the first time that I was actually paying attention to the other categories besides the acting and the directing and picture and all that. Because like, I remember that movie, like, the cinematography was so breathtaking, and ever since then, I started following, like, man, what is Roger gonna do next year? Like, what is his other movies that he shot?
So I have to
And
know. I have to know what
yeah.
went through your body when you found out Roger Deakins was going to shoot Blade Runner 2049.
Oh man, I remember like everything about that movie, like all the news that was coming out for it was like, oh my god, it just keeps getting better. Like, first of all, Denis Villeneuve. I mean, of course, like, I would have loved Ridley Scott to come back and direct it, but I guess like he just preferred to just. I mean, I don't know what was going on. Like, I don't know if it was like a preference because it seemed like he just chose to prefer to do Alien, or I don't know if it was that he was contractually obligated to do Alien and not do Blade Runner, because like it seemed like he'd been wanting to do Blade Runner again for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it felt like he even brought it into like Prometheus and Alien, like the Blade Runner elements, especially with David the android played by Michael Fassbender, like, and even Alien Covenant started with the close up of an eye, just like
Yep.
in Blade Runner. I felt like he'd been wanting to get to it so badly, so it kind of felt bad like he couldn't do it. But at the same time, Denis Villeneuve is like one of my all-time favorite filmmakers right now. Like, he's been proving to be such an incredible filmmaker. And when it said that he was going to do Blade Runner, especially after doing Arrival, which was my favorite
Oh my
film that
god.
year,
Arrival's
I
so
was like,
good.
I know. I was like, he's doing Blade Runner. Oh my god! And then, and then, I was hoping like that he and Roger would team up again, because they did Sicario and Prisoners together, which were amazing. And when he said that, and then when it said that he was going to do Blade Runner 2, I was like, man, this movie's going to look so good. And then, like, the cast piled on, and then the composers originally was going to be the late great Johan Johansson, which unfortunately his score didn't stay, and unfortunately they couldn't collaborate on something again, which I just think is a huge loss still. But Hans and Benjamin Wallfish, they were pretty damn great, and I remember it was probably my favorite film score that year, next to like Dunkirk, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so yeah, I think it's safe to say that I was like on the floor, like, just like, this is incredible. and this movie's gonna be great, and it was. I saw it like 3 times in theaters. I loved it so much.
Yeah, no, Blade Runner 2049 was my favorite movie that year. And dude, 2017 was a killer year for
It
movies.
was, yeah, it was a really good year. Yeah,
Yeah, because
like
I
Dunkirk. Yeah,
Dunkirk,
was
and
another
like
one.
I remember I forget if I saw it before or after Blade Runner, but like I remember like randomly took one of my friends, my friend Anthony, we went to go see Wind River, and
Oh man,
we didn't expect,
yeah,
like, it was just like, oh, like, Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch are in it, let's go. And then we, like, at the end of the movie, like, and here's the thing, I am a sucker for amazing editing, and that movie is edited so well. And
yeah,
the edit at the end, like, spoilers for those of you who haven't watched it, although I'll try to be vague. The edit at the end of the movie when they're going to go into the trailer and then it becomes a flashback and then it cuts right to where she's
yeah,
about to open the door. Like, dude, Anthony and I
yeah,
practically, we stood up like, oh shit, like, oh dude, like that was so insane. And like it's
yeah. I remember. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Yeah, that movie was great. Although, it's funny when I saw it. I was in vacation in San Francisco, and we went to a movie theater there to see it. Wait, the movie theater was like really interesting, by the way, because it was like in a mall, and the place was huge, and the movie theater itself was huge. It was like 2 stories.
Oh
Like
wow.
it was really interesting. Yeah, it was really cool. Anyways, so we saw it there, and like well, I kind of encouraged my family to see it because they're like, I don't know, like seems kind of dark, and like I guess they're trying to look for something a little more upbeat because we had a good day, and it was a great day
Mhm.
that day. And so we went to go see it because I convinced them, because like I told them that it was, well, they all love Sicario, and it's only the same writer, and then he's directing it too, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I guess we'll give it a chance. And yeah, I remember that movie like just completely like knocked me out. It was so great. It was such an underrated, underappreciated film that
Yeah,
year.
no Oscar love.
No
It,
Oscar love. I
and
was so sure,
yeah,
and it didn't happen.
yeah,
It
and
was
like
crazy.
I remember, well, part of it, I think part of it was that was one of the last Weinstein produced movies.
Yeah, I remember
And
that whole
and,
thing.
and
Yeah.
I know for the home release they even took off the logo.
Yeah.
But like it was just such a shame. And like I think his name Sheridan, the guy who made that,
Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor Sheridan. Um he wrote Hell or High Water as well, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
That
which was
that
his first Oscar
yeah,
nod
that was a
for
great
writing that.
movie. And
Yeah, I love that movie.
speaking of like no Oscar love, going back to Denis Villeneuve, I remember when I saw Prisoners at a theater.
Mm.
I saw it with my family, and like very rarely, because like normally when I see movies with my family, like half of us are into it, half of us don't care, and it's normally me who's into it, and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. And
Yeah.
all of us were simultaneously like in Prisoners, like all of us were just like hooked every second. We were like explaining, like guessing what was going to happen. And then I love ambiguous endings, and for those who've seen that movie, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
then I remember, because like I got into the Oscars a couple years before that, like around 2009 is when I started like really watching Oscars. And then I remember this was the first time I looked up when they were going to announce nominations, because I was
Mm.
like, I can't wait for Prisoners to
To
like,
be a clean sweep.
and it got almost nothing.
It
I
only
was
got
like,
cinematography. That was
yeah,
it.
I was
I'm like,
like,
what?
that was my favorite movie of that year. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And
I
and
know.
like and like I don't mean to drag on the Oscars. There are sometimes they nail it, sometimes they get it right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes, but like it's almost a blessing in disguise when there's a great film that gets overlooked by the Academy, because then there's, especially with like social media, there's this outpour of love of like,
Yeah.
yo, I know that the Oscars didn't recognize it, but you gotta, like, when Toni Collette didn't get one for Hereditary,
Yeah, I know.
that
Yeah.
was insane.
Yeah, that outrage was like real, man. And I was like,
Mhm.
everyone was like, how do you not look at that performance and not think Oscar?
Yeah, but
Yeah, it was
the thing
crazy.
is, because of that, I know people who hadn't watched Hereditary who saw all of that on social media, and then because of that, sought it out and watched it. So it's like, if it got more
Yeah.
people to see it, then I guess. But like, and then there's times where Oscars where I'm just like, thank you so much. Like Sam Rockwell when he won for Three Billboards, just because
Yeah.
I love Sam Rockwell, and
Yeah.
his performance was mind-blowing in that movie. And like, and I remember
Yeah.
watching it because I knew, like, when you watch that movie, it's such a fantastic movie, and you knew like they were going to get more than one. Like, you're like, all right, they're probably going to nominate Woody and Sam, and they're probably going to do all this. But I'm like, man, I really hope they give it to Sam. Like, I remember like in the theater with the person I saw, like we were walking out, I'm like, man, I hope Sam Rockwell at least gets a nomination. And then he did, and I was like, all right, my boy, let's see if he can pull it off. And he did, and I was so happy.
That's funny.
God, and then you have races that are just so close sometimes. Like, I remember, what year? I think the 2015 Oscars for 2014 movies. It was like, all right, is it going to be Michael Keaton for Birdman or Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything? And it was like, because like both of them were great, and I'm like, I would have been happy with either one of them. And then just this, like in 2019, or for the 2020 Oscars, like it was Joaquin Phoenix, Adam Driver, and
that was a really good category.
Yeah, like
it was Joaquin. It was Adam Driver. It was Antonio Banderas. It was okay, yeah, that's it. I was about to flex, but then I just realized I only remember three of them because those are the three that I was like, I think those are the three that I was really pulling for.
And like, but like it could have gone to any of them, and it was insane. And then and then going back, like how good 2017 movies were. Like, that's also when Thor Ragnarok came out. And I love Taika Waititi, and I love the MCU, and just seeing that come together was everything. Yeah. And I'm so happy that he won Best Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, because God, that movie was so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
And going even further back in the conversation to Sam Raimi, he is my guy. And I, like you, I was like 6 when Spider-Man came out, and it like changed me. And like, I remember my parents took like my whole Little League baseball team to see Spider-Man 2. So we literally had like an entire row of seats for one party for Spider-Man 2. And it was absolutely insane, and like insanity, and just like Spider-Man 2 is so good. And then, but I remember Sam Raimi was one of the first directors where I noticed watching other movies, like, oh, he did Spider. Oh, and then like when you're really young and you figure out like, oh, movies have directors and they do other things. Like, he was one of the first that clicked with me. And then I remember, when you do your IMDb dump because you want to find out more about people. I was like, oh, he did this little movie called the Evil Dead. I'm gonna check out the Evil Dead, and then fell in love, because Evil Dead 2 to me is a top 10 all-time great movie. And like even the first Evil Dead was an inspiring for like wanting to get into making movies, because like that movie was made for what, $20, and it's like that whole concept of like using the camera as the evil and it going through the woods and being horrifying, and they're all like kids. And I'm just like, my God, like that's the dream. That was the dream, is like making Evil Dead. And I love Sam Raimi. I love all that shit. I don't even know how we got on this path, but here we are.
No, like I feel that like with Sam Raimi, like my parents hate Evil Dead, but like always go like, hey, but you got to respect it even if you don't like it, because the first movie was made on like a micro budget, and it was able to be the base for a whole franchise, just from making that little movie. Like, that's what's like the most like inspirational thing about it, besides it being a really great horror film that has that blends in like weird dark comedy and all that. Like, it's just so good. And I love Evil Dead, and the second one too.
Yeah, and I liked the 2013 one that came out with
the remake.
Yeah, with Fede Alvarez, who directed that, and I like that movie. And like Don't Breathe was great. His follow up, that movie was great. And
that movie was really
I never saw the sequel he made to I never saw A Girl in the Spider's Web, but
I hadn't either.
But he's doing something. I forget what he's doing next, but I know he's doing something that I really want to see. But no, I really I loved Don't Breathe. I loved his Evil Dead remake. And like, he was one of those people, because every now and then you'll see a new director and you'll be like, I got to watch whatever they do. Like, I remember when I saw Lights Out, and I saw David F. Sandberg, and I was like, I gotta watch whatever this guy does. And then Shazam, and I was like, good for him.
I
And
know, quite a leap. I'm like, okay.
yeah, yeah, and it's like I think he did one of the Annabelle movies too. But like, oh, one of my favorite. I love horror. Shocker. One of my favorite horror directors is Mike Flanagan, and
Yeah.
I remember in 2011 when I saw Oculus, because that is such an underrated movie, and I saw Mike Flanagan. I was like, all right, buddy, I'm gonna follow you. And then a couple years later, you get Hill House, you get that Netflix movie he did. I think Gerald's Game and
Gerald's Game.
Hush, and then you get Doctor Sleep, which was so
Doctor Sleep, so good, yeah.
Oh, and then it's just like that guy kills it, and it's also fun to see like because like when you talk to people like the greatest filmmakers of all time, like you can go way back to like Billy Wilder, you can do. But like Spielberg becomes that name that's like he's so popular that people try to not mention him. But what people don't realize like with him is like the diversity of the types of movies that guy has been able to make. Like he didn't stick to a genre. Like he goes historical drama, sci-fi, romantic comedy, war, and it's just like they're all great. And it's like how does a man do that? I don't understand. How does anyone do that? It's insane. And something that I really want to see who does next was Bo Burnham after 8th grade.
Yeah, I know. I haven't heard anything about like a movie he's doing next. I mean, I know like he acted in Promising Young Woman,
which was great,
which I haven't seen yet.
Oh, dude,
but
so
good. I want to see it, but I haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
But like directing wise, I'm like, where's the news, man? Where are you gonna be next?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Olivia Wilde's new movie, Don't Worry, Darling, because I loved Booksmart.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you, because your raving tweet about Sound of Metal is what got me to watch it, and that movie was amazing. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, and thank you. Yeah, no, that movie is such a knockout. Like I was kind of saying, if like I have like a list of like 5 actors that I'm like hoping to get Oscar attention, and if they don't, then the Oscars is just whatever. Because but Riz Ahmed is on that list. I mean, I'm gonna say who the others are, but Riz Ahmed, I just want to gush for it because he's just so great, and he's been proving himself like in these like roles here and there, just like how like much of a talent he is. Like I don't know if you saw the miniseries The Night Of on HBO.
No, I didn't see that.
He won an Emmy for that, and let's just say that he definitely earned it. So definitely check that out. And but like the Sound of Metal, like his performance is so good, and the direction, the writing, everything about that movie is just incredible. Sound of Metal.
Yeah, and I cry in movies. Like that's I literally keep a list of every movie that makes me cry because it's fun. But there are very few movies that break my heart. And Sound of Metal, like on 4 separate occasions. Like
that movie's pretty crushing.
Like the scene when they're saying goodbye at the end of the first act. Oh my goodness. Like I almost I had to pause it because I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like I couldn't even, it was insanity. And then I can't talk about this movie because I will cry just talking about it. But like when they reunite towards the end of the film, I'm trying to be vague so people haven't watched it. Yeah. And then I'll say they come to a mutual understanding.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, that movie was that scene was really that movie is crushing, and but it's also really like thought-provoking, although I guess kind of in a depressing way, because like the whole thing is that like he just loses his hearing like out of nowhere. It seems.
Yeah, and
you don't know if it's a biological, like if it's a thing that he inherited. You don't know if it's from being a heavy metal drummer, but he just loses it, and it's like fucking scary, because you just think like, man, like I don't know how I would react if that were to happen to me, because like sound is such, I mean, for everyone, sound of course is an essential thing, but for me, like I love like listening to music, I love sound, like I mentioned before, I love sound effects, I love movies, like I couldn't imagine like living, like if that were to happen, it's just like crazy, like, and the way they portray in the movie is so like heart-wrenching and like, and heartbreaking, and it just feels very raw. I mean, like it's just like, yeah, the movie is just great.
Yeah, and like the sound design and like
Yeah.
just how it navigates no sound or modified sound, amazing. And I think the thing that I really appreciated about it was like most movies, like if you're going to make a movie about someone who's suddenly deaf or suddenly blind, or like a movie where someone like they have an unexpected life problem, normally
Mm.
that character has everything well going for them, and then this happens and the movie is like, oh, now this person has to take a break from life and work on this. Like
Yeah.
I don't mean to pick on because like I this movie is kind of adorable, even though it's okay, like Regarding Henry with Harrison Ford.
I was thinking of that in my head, like to reference, like, oh yeah, like that movie. That's
Yeah,
funny that we were
no,
thinking
but
about the same thing.
yeah, and but like it's a cute movie, but like it's kind of like, oh, now the story becomes about how this rich guy has to deal with this.
Mm.
Whereas Sound of Metal, he is already mentally fucked. Like he's already like not in a good place. You
Yeah.
know, he's trying his best. He loves his girlfriend, but he's on the edge of losing it. And then they bring up his former addiction past, which I thought added great to his character. And
Yeah.
he rides that line every day, and then
Mm.
he loses his hearing. And like that was like, oh my god, because I'd never really seen like someone tackle that problem
Yeah.
with a character that's already been through so much. And the
Yeah.
way that they established that within like an act of a movie, like I thought that was breathtaking. I loved it.
Yeah. Sound of Metal, the sound design, I felt like was the first time that I would characterize sound design as being eye-opening, because like usually when you think of sound design, you think of like, explosions, cool sounding stuff or whatever. But like for this one, I had no idea, like, if they got it right, that the in-ear implants for deafness like sounded like that. Like I figured it wouldn't be back to like 100% like normal hearing, but I didn't know it would be like that. And I thought like it was really crushing and also really eye-opening, and like it just really makes you, if you like, for people that have like hearing, like it just really makes you appreciate that, what you have, if anything. Like, and no other movie this year, when in regards to that, or like sound design in general, that I've heard before it, nothing's done that before. So if anything, I'm really rooting for it to win an Oscar for sound design or mixing this year.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that.
It was a little bit longer than 10 seconds, but
No, dude, it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I fully agree with that. And like speaking of sound design, like A Quiet Place from 2018,
Yeah.
unbelievable sound design. And like
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
that
really
was
good.
that was my favorite movie of 2018. So,
Mm.
and dude, oh, right before, oh, what am I doing with my hair? Jesus Christ. Right before COVID, I had a pass to see A Quiet Place 2 a week early.
Really?
And then the movie got pushed, and then they canceled my screening, and then the world shut down. So it was just like a boom, boom, bam,
Yeah.
of like everything happening. And
I remember that it was supposed to come out like in a couple weeks or something. Like, yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing that. Like we were making plans, like, okay, like we're gonna get our tickets or whatever. Yeah, that sucked. And then all these other movies got pushed back. That, I mean, I know like that's like the least thing to complain about right now. Like every time I catch myself like going off about movies that got pushed back, I always kind of go like, yeah, but there are like more pressing issues, like people are dying. That's more important.
Yeah.
But like but of course for me, movies are like life. So like of course like
Same.
that's something that's gonna bother me. But I always try to. But even then, I still try to think like there's other things to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that because you try to catch yourself, but it, like you said, and like same with me, movies are life. So like when that's life, like that's going to be the thing you want to complain about. But then you kind of have to put things into perspective. But it's a whole thing. And like Speaking of Oscars and like, COVID and everything, I see a lot of, and while I understand the argument, I see some arguments of like, oh, they should just cancel the Oscars and either do a combined one next year or whatever it be. I thought it was a good idea to just postpone them a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really glad that they're still doing a ceremony because to me, if you push the ceremony, one, no 2020 movie is going to win the following year. And
Yeah.
and two, yeah, there's less competition, but like that's not the artist's fault. Like that's not the filmmaker's fault. Like whether a
Yeah.
movie comes out that year has nothing to do with the people who made it. And I feel like it would have been disheartening to the artists just because like they happened to make a movie this year.
Yeah.
And and so I'm glad that they're still holding a ceremony. And it'll be weird and awkward, but I think it'll be a nice touch and it'll be a cool thing.
Yeah, I think so too. But just real quick on that other note, like, I mean, although like, yeah, like it's really unfortunate that a lot of like the most anticipated films that I had this year are getting pushed, like, like Dune, West Side Story, all that. But like at the same time, like I feel like it could, well, I mean, hopefully, the Oscars, they kind of see the opportunity that, there's an opportunity to give a spotlight to like maybe like, the smaller movies that came out this year that were great, instead of like, what they probably would have done and given it to like the heavy hitters like Spielberg again and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so I'm hoping that they actually take the opportunity and do that, even though like, unfortunately, like based on the short list, it doesn't really seem, and also from just the buzz in general, it doesn't really seem like some of the movies that I would have wished would get Oscar attention don't really seem like they are. But I'm hoping that, maybe they'll just do a surprise and turn around and do it. But I don't know. So I kind of do see the benefit of that now, like maybe other movies that maybe they would have been, overlooked because of other movies that were going to come out. Maybe now they'll get a chance to, be in the spotlight.
Yeah. If only Uncut Gems had come out this year.
Oh man. Yeah, that's another one. I love that movie. They got nothing.
I know. No, but like, because like with a movie like that and like just the Safdie brothers in general, the way that they maintain anxiety, like it's insane. Like, because like I was even taught sometimes like, hey, if you're gonna have a really suspenseful or anxiety-inducing sequence, you have to use them sparingly because building that up, it's exhausting and it takes a lot of story prep and work. And then these guys are like, did you say stay intense the whole movie? Because watch this. And then it's just like insane.
Yeah.
God, just like the talents of people. Because like there's some stuff that like I'm pretty confident in my ability to do film-wise. And then there's some stuff where I watch movies and I'm like, I don't know how. Like every time
do that, yeah.
Like every time I watch a Wes Anderson movie, I just get mad. because of how symmetrical and like the production design's perfect. And I'm like, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Wes Anderson. He's a fantastic filmmaker. Like, but every time I watch a movie, I'm like, man, fuck this guy. How is he able to do all this? Like,
yeah, no, yeah. Like filmmakers like that. I'm like, how, like, I mean, everyone, like in every field, there's always someone who is gonna be, great and better at it than everyone else. But you're always like, damn, like I'm really jealous because I wish, like, like I could be like that good. Because like Wes Anderson, like I don't know, like how like he developed that eye to like, for his films to be like, that, like it seems so like out of this world for me. Like, having that kind of talent.
Yeah. And like and then there are some films I watch where I'm like, well, I'm never gonna make anything that good in my life, so I might as well just give this shit up. Like I remember the first time I saw There Will Be Blood. Like I remember watching that movie and just being like, what's the point? What's the point of trying to get into this? And I was just rewatching Tenet with a friend of mine, and about halfway through the movie, he just looks over at me and goes, why does anyone else direct movies? I was like, it was so good. It's good stuff. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say just a real quick note on There Will Be Blood. This quarantine also spent time, watching movies I hadn't seen. Like, well, a lot of time, delving into Criterion Channel. But anyways, the I finally caught up on my P.T. Anderson filmography because I tried watching There Will Be Blood when I was like in high school, and then I think later on I tried watching The Master, but like but I was at the time I think I was like too young, and I don't think my palette was like varied yet. Like I feel like I had to watch more movies to really get it, because I don't know, like for some reason when I was younger I just like I didn't get the hype behind P.T. Anderson. But then now this past spring, well not spring, but like I've been watching his movies. Like now I've seen all of them. And now I'm a P.T. Anderson fan because like yeah, well right now my favorite I think is a toss up between Punch Drunk Love and maybe Boogie Nights. Like I kind of really like his earlier so work, but I do really love I like There Will Be Blood, and I really love The Master. And I also found to really enjoy Phantom Thread. I really like that movie now.
Dude, I got to see Phantom Thread on 70 millimeter.
What? How'd that look?
I happened to be in New York at the time, like on a family trip. And so while I was there, because like I live in, we both live in Florida, and we rarely get like it'll be a limited theatrical release and then it'll go wide in fucking 3 months.
That's the only painful thing about living in Florida. Yeah.
And well, they were playing like really early. They were playing like I, Tonya and Phantom Thread and The Post. And I was like, oh shit, like while we're here, we got to see all these movies. And they were playing Phantom Thread and it said 70 millimeter. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And dude, it looked amazing. Yeah. But all right, I'm about to make you pretty jealous here. Guess what else I got to see in 70 millimeter?
I don't know, a Nolan movie or yeah, okay, which one?
Dunkirk.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to see the 70 mil print, but I saw it in Fort Lauderdale. We have we have the tallest IMAX screen, I think.
Yes.
So I saw it there. It was the digital version, but it still like filled the entire 143 aspect ratio and looked amazing. But I guess I'm a little bit jealous. You saw the 70 mil print of Dunkirk, and you saw it around the same time, I guess.
No, I actually randomly, one of the theaters in Orlando literally just posted like when Dunkirk was coming out, because I had already bought my tickets for a different theater.
Right.
And then they posted, Dunkirk, and they had IMAX, standard, like another one, and then 70 millimeter. And I was like,
that's not even a decision.
Yeah. And I texted who I was going to go see it with. I was like, hey, do you care if I get these tickets instead? Like, would you be bothered by that? And he didn't know the difference. He's like, oh shit, I just want to see it. And I was like, great. So we got it in like, I literally because like they must have just been trying it out or something, because the lights go down and you could hear them hook it up. And it was like, it was so awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of 70 mil, I saw Tenet in 70 mil when they came out in theaters.
Oh, you bastard!
Yeah, I saw the 70 mil IMAX print, and it felt like such a nice, warm welcome back to theaters when it came out. Because what I loved, because like I mean, other people were like, "That's annoying," or like they probably wouldn't notice, but like when I saw it, I remember like. You could see like the light flicker. You could see like the dust moving around and all that. I was like, man, this like feels like such a nice welcome back to the theaters. Like seeing like retro tech. But yeah, like I'm behind on my 70 mil viewings because like, I think the only 70 mil prints I've seen in my life are Tenet. I saw 2001 in 70 mil when they did the re-release, which looked fantastic.
I wouldn't have even invited you on here if I knew. If I knew you were gonna make me that jealous.
No. And then I think the only other one I've seen before that was I think I saw the 70 mil for Force Awakens when it came out.
Oh, you son of a bitch, dude! You keep throwing these things in my face, like.
But no, that's it. That only got. Hey, well, you threw Phantom Thread in my face, so true. I would have. That's true. Although then again, at the time, I wouldn't have cared. But like now, I'm like, man, I really wish I cared and liked P.T. Anderson because I would have loved to see his movies in theaters.
Yeah, no.
So I'm looking forward to his next one.
Yeah, no, I had a friend who got to see Hateful Eight in 70, and that would have been awesome. That would have been
That
looked
would have been
so
awesome.
good. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I try not to give myself too much shit for not seeing 70, just because like I live in Orlando,
Yeah.
so it's like,
Same.
you know, like if I was ever lucky enough to move to New York or LA, oh my god, whatever they're playing in 70,
Yeah.
I'm going to see.
You got a print. I'm watching it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
because the 2001 I got to see it, theatrically, but I saw it. I saw the digital one.
Mm.
But man, that was still cool to see.
It was great to see in theaters in general because
Mhm.
because that was another one that I saw in high school. I saw it on Netflix at home, and I didn't get it.
Mhm.
But for some reason, the intrigue was still there. Like, you know, oh, I kind of wonder what the movie meant or whatever, even though I
Mhm.
didn't really enjoy it, unfortunately. So, and then all these years later, they come out with, you know, the celebration, you know, anniversary print that came out a couple, like, was it last year or
I think it
it was
might have
two
been
years
2
ago?
years
It was
ago.
like
Yeah.
2019.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyways, so we got wind that the 70 mil print was gonna be screened at the same IMAX theater that I was just talking about that we have
Mhm.
in Fort Lauderdale. So then I took my brother who had never seen it in general, and then my dad that I can't remember if he had seen it. I think he might have saw it like on TV once when he was like younger. But anyways, so we all saw it, and my brother's first time, and for me and dad, it was pretty much like the first time all over again, and it was like, oh, so like this is how you're supposed to watch it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like I loved it. Ever since I saw it, I'm like I'm a fan of 2001 because like before I like you know I wasn't really
Mhm.
I didn't really care too much for it, but like it was so different in theaters because like
Yeah. No, it really.
especially this
Yeah.
yeah like especially the Stargate sequence. Like I remember like when I saw it at home, I was like I just want like I fast forwarded it because I was like okay this is like
Mhm.
you know ridiculous, but like in theaters it's completely different. You're like this is amazing. Like yeah like the visual effects in that movie still hold up.
Mhm.
It's incredible. Like in like seeing in theaters, like it's weird to say, but it's like you have to see it in theaters in order to like really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that with most, if not all, movies. And
Yeah.
I, it's funny, but like, because there are some movies where, because like all film is subjective. That's the magic of it.
Right.
And there are some movies where like if some people don't like them, I'm like, wow, like man, that's crazy, but you know, it's subjective or whatever. And then there's some, even if it's a movie I love, and 2001 is one of them where someone's just like, I didn't like that movie, and I'm just like, you know what, I get that, like
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I
But
felt that way with Uncut Gems because
yeah,
like there's a lot of people that like
hmm
I would talk to afterwards, and like most of the reaction I get is like, oh, you know, that movie sucked or I hated that movie, and I'm like, I get it because like
yeah.
so far what I've gotten was that like everyone liked it until the end.
The end is
So it
what
kind of
makes it. The end is what
I
makes
know,
it.
but I kind of threw it up to okay. I guess like the ending is pretty you know divisive because like
hmm
or divisive because like you know I know like there's people that like it, there's people that love it, and then there's people that just hate it and it ruins the movie for them, which is pretty much my family. And but like and then other people that I know. But like for me, like you know, of course, like I was you know I was a bit like disappointed, a bit like oh man, you didn't
yeah,
make
yeah,
it, but at the same time, you know, you know, I kind of just learned to just accept it, and you know, I like it, and I just, you know, love the movie in general. Okay,
yeah.
what were we gonna say before that? Sorry.
No, it's good. First of all, you know, how do we make it an hour into a podcast and we're just now bringing up Kubrick? But two, um, I love seeing movies with people where it's divisive amongst the group because like the post
Mm,
movie conversation is what I live for. And when it's like,
yeah.
and when it's back and forth, it's so much fun. Like, dude, I was the only person in my group of friends who all went to see this movie who loved Annihilation.
Mhm.
Everyone else in my friend group didn't like it.
Ah.
And so like that conversation of me like dying on the hill of like that was a great movie and then just like
It was a great
everyone
movie. You're gonna listen
yeah
to me.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah and then but like you know but again it's just you know it's subjective. That's what's magic about it. And
Yeah.
you know and also I love that conversation of someone who doesn't like a film but then you fully understand and see their reasoning behind it, and while you might not agree with it, it makes that film more tangible, more real, and it makes it more, it increases the conversation about the love of film, even if someone
Right.
doesn't like a movie. You know, then you have
Right.
people who are you know, I didn't like that movie because the actors weren't hot or fucking something stupid. But like,
Yeah.
you
There's
know,
still people like that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
they are those that like that. That's stupid. Yeah.
yeah. And it's, but I, you know, because like there's going to be classic movies you don't like. There's going to be that's going to happen just as long as you can, fully state why you don't like them, or just because it's also an emotional experience, and sometimes there are movies that just don't move you, and it happens. And then and then there are times there are movies that are awful, and it's awful, but god damn it, you love it.
Yeah.
And like for me, that's like Armageddon is so good. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so
I
bad,
remember
but
that
it's
was
so
like my
good.
go-to movie when I was a kid, pretty much. It was like that. Of course, it was like Armageddon and Independence Day. Those were like the movies you put on and like, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
Although I think I might have watched it too many times because now I'm like not too phased by it anymore. I feel, but but I think it's solely because I watched it so many times. Like I feel like if I popped into VCR for Independence Day one more time, it would probably like burn out or something because that's how many times I used to watch it when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And God,
Yeah.
Independence Day is so fun. But yeah. No. That's God.
Yeah.
That's insane. I want to go back to some of your films. Hold on. I'm pulling up the IMDb because I've seen some of these. I've seen a few of these. I've seen Homecoming. I've seen Maya, and I've seen The Lonely Boy, and of course I've seen One Bad Day. That movie was great.
Thank you.
And I mean, they're all great. If I didn't say they're great, it's not because I
How
skipped
dare
over
you?
it.
No, just kidding. No,
No, but
you're good. Thank you.
I saw Date as well. Yeah, and I saw the trailer for Hereafter, which is exciting. And I saw may have seen a little bit more than a trailer for Her Him, but I'm gonna take my privileges where I can get them. But because like no, dude, because like yeah, and this, when there's no better like compliment or like sense of like oh, I'm like respected or my opinion matters is when like you have a filmmaking friend who's like, hey, I'm not going to release this yet, but can you watch this and like just give me your thoughts? Like, dude, I was so honored when you did that. So thank you. And
Thank you.
yeah, I hope that's cool that I say that I watch the movies early. Is that
No. Try. I'm not that big of a deal yet. So, so it's okay. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
No, cool.
Thanks.
But no, I love doing all that, and of course, like when I finish the local, you're going to be one of the first people to check it out.
Yeah,
because
I'm
right
really
now,
looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, like the trailer looked really really good, and then of course like I really liked No More Safe Haven. I really liked Contrition. That movie was really good.
well, thanks.
And yeah, so like I'm looking forward to this one and whatever you do next.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, local is it's just slowly but surely getting there. Like it's I'm doing the sound for it now, and that's the one that takes the longest for me. Luckily, I just got amazing VFX people to start working on it, and I have an amazing composer who's working on it, and that really took the pressure off, because originally it was just like I had the physical edit, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm going to do sound, and it was just me working on it. But like knowing that there's other people working on it, like for some reason calms me down. And it's the longest movie I've ever done, so just the sound editing movies was so much easier when they were 8 minutes. But
oh man, yeah, I feel that like with like One Bad Day was my longest.
Yeah, that was almost half an hour.
Yeah. Like that one, yeah, that one was definitely like hard in a different way than like I mentioned Imperium. Well, Imperium was just because like I had all these things that were more of like just hindering me and like kind of holding me back because I just because it was my own doing basically, because like I put all these things that made production drag. But with One Bad Day, I mean, it was just a challenge in general because like because obviously the script when I wrote it, like it was around like 30 pages, so like I already knew it was like, okay, this is going to be a long one. and then my mistake on that one was that when I started filming it, I basically went into it thinking like, oh, it should take about as long as it usually does. But like my shorts in the past have been like less than like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. and this is 30 minutes. And I did not have enough time. And also it was the biggest, well, besides, you know, the length, but it was also the most actors I've ever worked with at one time. Because usually it's like, you know, 2 people or 3. And this one, you know, I was directing 5 people at once. And that was, and then the way I scheduled it, because like the first thing I did were the interrogation room scenes with me, my on-screen partner, Detective McQueen, played by Francie Moreau, and then the lead, you know, played by Luna Rivera. So those are 3 of us all in one location, you know, very controlled, super easy, got that done under schedule. And then right after that, I went to the park and did all this stuff outside in the park where we're, you know, where it's like the standoff and like, you know, the deal and all that. Big mistake to do right after that. Because right after that, I was working, you know, again, like I was all in the elements. And then, you know, I was working with the most amount of people I've ever worked with on a cast. And it was just and I was completely overwhelmed. And it showed when I went home. Well, first off, again, the so far I think I'm gonna take it like if I don't finish everything like in the first day, I'm gonna take that as a bad sign to them, like I'm doing something wrong. Because we couldn't finish everything. Because like I was overwhelmed, you know, I couldn't really, you know, get like the direction right. And then there was an actor who remained nameless that told me that they had acted before, and then on the day they were saying that they hadn't acted before, and they were forgetting their lines and all that, and was struggling, and it was painful to watch.
Yeah.
And then when I went home, I was watching the footage that we got, and all the stuff in the interrogation room was great. Everything in the park was wrong. Everything. I was like, and it wasn't the actor's fault, because again, like I couldn't get the words right for the direction, and like and even like the way the shots went out, like planned out, were like not right. It was pretty bad. And then it was so bad that the next day I woke up and I was like my stomach was like so bad, like I couldn't eat anything. My poor mother tried to make me scrambled eggs and like, you know, have me eat something before filming again, and I couldn't eat it. I was thinking of canceling the shoot. I'm like, okay, we gotta stop. But it took a moment. I realized that for this day in particular, well, the thing that was also nerve-wracking was I was working with a lot of people that I hadn't worked with before. Because in that cast, the only people I'd worked with before were Luna Rivera and Carolina Berratera. And everyone else I hadn't worked with before. So on this day, the next day, when I was like, you know, thinking, oh, maybe I should cancel it, I stopped and I thought like, well, I mean, on this day, I'm working with everyone that I worked with before. There's just one other person, Alina, that I hadn't worked with, but everyone else I'd worked with. And I know that they know how to, you know, get everything done. And that's the reason why I work with them multiple times, because like we seem to be on the same wavelength, and they don't need that much direction, and they seem to just really get what I'm trying to do. And also they know how to do it efficiently.
But, you know, don't make movies with your friends.
Yeah, but don't make movies with your friends. Yeah. Although, I mean, when I met them off of backstage. So, so like, you know, we're at Denny's and we were like talking and all that for Homecoming, and that's how we met. And then now we made a few projects together. Anyways, so on that day was 1,000 times better because it was less people and I knew what I was doing, and it was just simpler. But because of, you know, all that footage that didn't work on the first day, I had to reschedule, like, okay, we have to have another weekend where we do this all again, basically. And then also finish what we didn't get to do. So then 2 weeks after that, then we all got back together again and finished the film and redid it. And a lot better because I actually knew what to do. And then also in those 2 weeks, I spent like a lot of time with that one actor that, you know, was really struggling. And basically it was like every night, basically we were rehearsing, and I was like, you know, making sure that they were getting the lines right and knew how to act. And also I got the chance to redesign the characters, even like both costumes and also just the performance, because like I realized that was some things that I made a mistake on. So it's the first time I've ever done reshoots on a film, but yeah, it was like so worth it because like I got to correct so many things that otherwise it would have like, really like held the movie back. So yeah, that was kind of that was a big lesson right there, or so many lessons right there that I learned from making that film.
Yeah, no, that's so crazy. And like, I'll go into something else in a second, but you've probably said this in all the Q&As we did for Hollywood Florida, but black and white, was it scripted as black and white, or was that a choice made later? Was that always the choice?
Choice made later. Although, again, probably if you're in my film school, you think like, nah, he probably wanted it all along. But no, it was all going to be in color. But well, there's both a story reason and a technical reason. The technical reason was that when I did the reshoots, I couldn't afford to get the camera that I originally shot with back, which was the very beautiful Canon 5D Mark IV, which looked incredible and had this incredible Sigma lens with it that I love that look. I really need to get that camera and lens back. Anyways, so I couldn't get it back, so we had to shoot it with something else, and you can tell that it wasn't the same. So the black and white and the film grain helped kind of mask the differences, so it wouldn't like look like this looks like this was shot on a different day. Plus there's also the thing that the skies, outside, like, they didn't all like match up. So like I had to make it in black and white and put the grain in. Plus like the story reason, I just felt like it just made everything seem so much more intense and dire when the flashback scenes were in black and white, and also the use of the film grain that I put in. Because like because one, like, like it helps differentiate the timeline because it intercuts, and the story is told in past tense. But like I just like the film grain, I felt like just really completed the look, because like in the interrogation room scenes, like it was in color, and I trying to make it look like 35 mil. And then for the black and white scenes, I was really inspired by like Aronofsky films, like early Aronofsky, and also like
nice.
And then weirdly enough, the opening of Casino Royale, like the way that looked, like where the grain feels really intense and it's in black and white. Like I was definitely inspired by the look for the end in the parking lot scene with the last flashback scene.
Ooh, the parking lot scene. Oh, I remember.
Yeah, so yeah, for that scene in particular, I was really looking at for some reason Casino Royale. Like I really love the look of that film because it's like really harshly contrasted. The highlights are really blown out, and like the grain field's really high. Like so, like all those things kind of influenced the look of the film with the black and white and the grain field and everything.
Dude, that's so awesome. And like something that I noticed watching One Bad Day is something you brought up, is like this is the most people you've directed at one time. Because I just experienced that similar feeling with directing The Local, because there's a sequence where I think it's 5 also. And luckily I had worked with some of the actors before, and but we had a new actress. Her name is Roxy Rivera, and she is unbelievable, like unbelievable actress. And I'd met her at a film festival, and we reached out, and I got her involved in the project, and I was intimidated by her because like of the work I had seen. Because like when you think about your own work, you try to be like, oh, like it's okay. And the fact that she wanted to work with me, I was like, that's insane. Yeah, I was like, really? Are you sure? And then like who tricked you? And then I saw her work, and she was so like out of my league good in terms of her performances to what I thought like of my directing capability. And I was like, man, it's like when she showed up, and like it's mostly me and all my friends and people I've worked with, and it was like, it was almost like we had like a major celebrity on set of just like, do you need anything, Roxy? Is everything okay? No, okay. And then like we would do all this, but like by day 2, that was fine, and she was part of the gang, and it was great. But like, I was really intimidated working with a new actress, and luckily she was amazing. And like the funny thing about like, I have a love-hate relationship with pre-production. It's my least favorite part of making, like the scheduling, the planning is an absolute nightmare. Luckily, luckily, Hannah, my lovely girlfriend, has also turned out to be a great line producer. Who knew? And she did an amazing job, but like I was so, because like in the writing process, and it's funny, it made me laugh really hard when you looked at how many pages it was and you're like, oh man, because I remember when I wrote the first draft of The Local, like I was just writing and I like wasn't even looking at how long it was. I was just like going, and the first draft was 46 pages, and
Damn.
I just went,
That's almost.
yeah, I was like, oh shit, that's gotta, okay, and then it's not going to be that long, but
What was the final page count?
I think it was 32, something like that. Because like basically there was a sequence at the end that I just got rid of, and which helped a lot. And because like I'm a slut for ambiguous endings, so I just went ahead and did it again. None of my short films have third acts. So, because third acts are hard, but like I remember being on set, and the thing I was most worried about is I consider The Local a drama, but surprise, surprise, it's me. There's an action sequence, and it's, I don't want to hype it up because I don't want to set people up for disappointment, but like it's the most complicated one that I've done so far, because the whole fight is basically two versus one. And those are nightmares to choreograph.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so I was with the other actors, like weeks out, we're practicing, we're doing choreography, because I was so worried, because like of all the stuff that could go wrong in a film set, if that fight is not ready, it's going to be horrible. And I was so worried about that, and like anxiety inducing, like before the day before shooting the fight scene, I was like, God, I'm really worried about how this is going to go. Fight scene went great. Everything else took forever. And it's because I was so worried about that fight scene that I not that I didn't prep, but I underestimated how long other sequences were going to take. I luckily had an amazing cast, because like because like, you know, this, when you have an amazing cast, directing becomes easier. Because it's just like,
it really does.
If you're on the same wavelength, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And luckily I had meetings with everybody beforehand of like what their character was, how they are, you know, what puzzle piece they are to the story, and we were all on the same, everything was good. Because you don't want to get on set with an actor who thinks they're making one movie when you're not. And luckily everyone was on the same page, so when we were throwing curveballs like that, we were able to adjust quickly and everything was fine. But it was just like, I remember being so worried about that fight scene, and then when it came out fine, I was like, oh thank God, because like everything else was wrecked. And you mentioned doing reshoots. The only thing I've ever had, I mean, I'm going to do additional photography on The Local, but it's like pickups. I made a short film called The Long Hard Day. And that one. And there's a sequence that takes place in a car where two characters get picked up by an overly sexually aggressive driver.
Yeah.
And when we initially recorded that scene, when we filmed that scene, last minute my cinematographer dropped out. Not of the project, but like had a family emergency. And was like, I can't, like, and it was like, it was for real. Like I was like, okay, no problem. But the problem was the driver, the crew, everyone had requested off work to come. Because my gut reaction was, all right, we'll just cancel the day, we'll do another time. But I'm like, all these people showed up, and so I was like, all right, I'll shoot the scene. And so we did it, and I feel bad. I shot the whole scene knowing this is all going to be reshot, like on the day, but I didn't I wasn't rushing through shots. Like I wasn't like making it obvious, like I'm not going to use any of this, because like you can grab something by the green screen that's like, oh, I can put that in, that was good. And so we were working on it. The crew did an amazing job. I just felt so bad, and I didn't want to cancel it, so I let them come out and try it, and then we had to reshoot that scene. But the good news was all of the I want to say like concerns or giggles were done in the first time. So when we got to reshoot the scene, it went by so smoothly.
Mm.
And so it was almost like a blessing in disguise, because like when you're making comedies, you're going to do like a bunch of takes because people are going to
Yeah.
laugh, or they're either going to
Yeah.
laugh at what's happening, or like something's going to, because like I'm also a big fan of improvisation, even like on action movies and dramas. So like sometimes they say something and it just breaks you. And so we were prepared to do multiple takes. And then on that day, on the reshoot day, though, it went by great. And so it was blessing in disguise, but I was stressed out about it. And God, the only thing that sucks about making comedies is editing comedies, because by the time I edited that movie, like nothing was funny. I'm like, man, this is like horrible. Like, I didn't laugh one time when I watched the finished product, and then I showed it to people and they laughed. I was like, all right, I'll take it. Just that is fine. You don't have to say anything else. I heard you laugh. And then, but yeah, that one, when you watch it, should have been the easiest movie I've ever had to make. Plot twist, it was the most difficult, and it was just insane.
But it's funny you bring up the whole thing about editing comedy, because like, well, I only did one, and on that one, the hardest thing editing it was that, well, first of all, a mishap that I had directing was that I encouraged, I think, too much improvisation, because when I was editing it, it was like a nightmare to make the scene seem cohesive. Because of the different reactions and the different like comebacks or jokes or lines, and it was just like, oh boy, I made a mistake. Well, just in general, like I encourage too much improvisation on that. So note for anyone, if you're doing a comedy, don't if you're not prepared to like have a movie be like completely improvised, don't encourage it too much. Because like I did that, I had the script, and like they stuck to it, but like because of all the improvisation they did, it was almost like the story was like it was a bit all over the place, and like the characterization was a bit all over the place, and so that was kind of a mistake I made.
And something, because I love improv, but at the same time, as you just got to have that coverage. So like the thing that I do is I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get like 2 or 3, maybe 4, depending how much time we have, takes, and I want you guys to be on script. And when I get 1 or 2 that I really like, it's like, all right, now we're going to do it again and just fuck around and like see what happens. And sometimes I'll use like snippets of something that was improv, or sometimes there have been sometimes where I've used an entire scene that was improv, because I'm like, all right, that was funnier than any fucking thing I could have written, or even like it was better, like, dude, on The Local. And I've never seen improv on drama than on that set, because there's a sequence. I'm going to be careful. There's a sequence where we'll say someone gets bullied. We'll leave it at that. And it's scripted, like the actions of the characters are scripted a certain way. And we shot it that way, and it wasn't working. And none of us could quite put our finger on like, why isn't this working? And then, like I said, Roxy, the incredible actress she is, and Michael, who plays the antagonist of the film, Michael Joseph, incredible actor, they kind of went off to the side and chatted a little bit, and then they brought in like one more actor and chatted, and they came to me and they were like, do you mind if we just like try something? And I'm like, yes, but where do I need to put the lights and camera? Because you can't just like go anywhere. And they're like, right. And they're like, we're gonna go over here. And I was like, all right. So I had the cinematographer set it up, and I'm like, I literally had no idea what they were gonna do, and I'm just like, fuck it, see what happens. And I was like, all right, action. And dude, it was way better. And it was like, it was dramatic. It was like like the way that they were in each other's face. And I was like, wasted so much time scripting out that scene, because Jesus Christ, that was so much better than what anything I could have done. And it was just like, damn. And but like, I was not used to improvisation when it wasn't comedy. Like I was so blindsided in a good way,
like improv and all that. Like it was because of the mishap that I had on Date, like I haven't encouraged it as much, but what I do instead is like I'll have like conversations with the actors about the scene more like in detail, and ask like like if you have any ideas or whatever, like on the moment you can bring them up or whatever. So like I remember on one bad day there was two instances of that where like there's like the climax scene at the park when like before like the shootout happens and it's like building up. So like there's a scene where Luna's character gets out of the bad guy's car and starts heading to Carolina, who's heading over to them. That part, and then like so they start arguing, they get in each other's face, and like Luna like shoves her. Like that wasn't in the script. That was like something that Carolina came up with on the spot because like she was feeling that it wasn't that intense and that there should be like a little bit more of like physical contact. So then she was like telling Luna like push me, and then like the first time she was kind of like a little bit like that, and then the next like no like really push me, and then the next time then like she kind of like pushed her more, and then they kind of like caused her to be a little bit more aggressive, which was a lot better than the other takes. So that was one, although that's more like minimal. But like then there's the, like I mentioned before, the parking lot scene, because we were kind of nervous about that because we didn't have like a permit for it, and like no one knew we were going to be there.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
then we had like fake, and we had fake guns.
Yeah, the secret ingredient is crime for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So like and then my of course my parents were kind of like, you're gonna be like filming like in public places with fake guns, and I'm like in secluded places, like whatever. So they kind of got this bug in my head that like that I'm gonna die for this movie. So we finished all the stuff at the park, and then the last thing of the day was the parking lot scene. So we're all at like having dinner in between, and we were talking about the scene, about how we are going to do it. And then we're like we're kind of talking about like how we should do it, because it was going to be like shot more traditional with like master scene method and all that. And but we kind of were thinking like like maybe we should not like spend so much time there, because like we have to like like be yelling at each other, and we have to point guns at each other, and then like fake blood and all that. So we were kind of thinking like, what if we just did it all in one shot? And then I was kind of going like, well, I mean, like I don't know, because like we didn't exactly prepare for that. Like I don't know, like if you guys like can you do that? And then they're like, yeah, we got it. So then like I basically replanned out that scene, because like I said, it was going to be like more like in master scene with coverage and all that. So then we got to the parking lot, and then so we rehearsed it like twice. We did 2 rehearsal takes for me to plan it out, and then after that, then like we shot it for, like I did like 3 takes of like the water basically, or part of the scene. And yeah, we got that in like 3 takes, and then like we were able to finish that whole scene in like an hour, I think.
Damn.
It was, yeah, like the water like really killed time, and also the fact that we were like, okay, we gotta move or whatever, like we go quick, because like I mean, because thankfully the parking lot structure like had like a good amount of light, and then also and then Carolina's idea too, we had her headlights on basically to give like a good like backlight for them, or even like backlight for someone, well, for Carolina really, and then it was more like a key for like the other 2, because they were facing it. But like yeah, like that whole scene is like it was almost like in like them, like that, like it was like kind of like their baby, because it was their idea to do it like that. And then afterwards, like I mean, afterwards it was a little bit more like how I planned, because afterwards they were like more traditional. There were like coverage shots after that in like slow-mo, but that whole thing is like, so far that's like the scene that I'm like most proud of that I've done so far, next to like a scene that I've done in a certain film that you may have seen an earlier cut of, that there's a scene in there that I'm really proud of also, even though for that scene seems a little, I'm kind of tuning my own horn because I'm in it. But yeah, but I've seen that I'm not in it. It's the parking lot scene.
Yeah, no, dude, the parking lot scene's awesome. I think I know the scene you're talking about. It was awesome. And like, dude, look at who you're talking to. You make me feel bad about being in my own stuff. No, like,
That is different. You're good. For me, I don't know. I don't know.
first of all, no. Second of all, of your acting work that I've seen you do, it's very good. I've enjoyed seeing you on camera, and I would tell you if I didn't like it. And
Thanks.
yeah, and like, dude, the weird thing about like me being on camera, I made a short film that wasn't official. I just made it like when I was in college for just like to show like people at like my hometown, like, hey, this is like what I'm gonna try and start doing. It was like this somber ass drama because when I first year film school, I'm like, oh, that's what people like. And
Yeah.
I made this drama and I just put it up on YouTube, and I wasn't in it.
Mm.
And I got messages from extended family and friends being like, hey, I thought you made this movie. And I was like, I did. I wrote and like directed the movie. And they were like, but like I didn't see you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man. And the thing is, normally it's like, oh, whatever. But I'm like, these are the people that are going to share my stuff on social media. And like, if it's going to get seen at all, it's going to be because of these people. And I'm like, I'll just pop in, I guess. And then I like would experiment more, and I would like be briefly in it or do this or that. And then just what eventually started happening is, no one knows characters more than the people who wrote them. And I'm not trying to sound like a pretentious dickhead there. It's just, I think you could even say that for like every character in your stories, like no one knows them better than you do. And,
Yeah.
and, while I trust acting and like explaining to actors like what this character is and seeing their process, especially with some of the great actors I've had the chance to work with, being able to write and then inhibit a character as you're writing it it's a great experience.
Yeah.
And while I don't consider myself an amazing actor, I've seen worse. so it's like
Yeah.
as long as I don't completely suck. And like my cinematographer, he's one of the few people, like when I finish movies early, I send it to him because he'll be honest. And so when we're on set, because I do have a hard time directing myself, and so we'll be on set and I'll just look at Kyler and be like, did it suck? And he'll either be like yes or no, and sometimes he's like, yes, do it again. And I have to do it again. But like, it's nice to just have that checks and balances like that. But yeah, no. And it's just fascinating because I started acting out of necessity. One, just to so people would share my stuff, and two, so that I could have to contact less people to be in them. Because as you know, working on micro budgets, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And but it's fun. And it's like I'll
Yeah.
keep and here's the thing. I've there are niche markets of characters I can play. I'm not gonna write myself like this complicated Oscar baity ass character to try and play. Like I can play people. It's gonna sound bad. I can play people who are depressed, and I can play people who are overwhelmingly defensive with humor. Those are the two people I can play. So it's like I will play that person forever. And but yeah, no, it was so it's fun to do. And and I would never, and you're the same way. I don't think we would ever step into a role that we weren't 100% confident in that we could pull off.
Yeah. Although I was pushing it in one bad day. But like the thing with that one was that I wasn't supposed to. Well, that's the thing. Everything before my new film that's gonna, hopefully come out soon, Her and Him.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, when I've acted in my shorts, I was never supposed to. I only acted them because the actor dropped out, basically, and I foolishly didn't get an understudy or a backup. So I don't know. I mean, then again, everyone's working for free, so I can't really, I shouldn't really expect it. I shouldn't expect them to always, just be like 100% like loyal and stick to it or whatever. But but in the past, that's always been like, if I'm in it, it's because someone dropped out and I had to fill it in for them at the last minute. And that happened on one bad day. Like the actor that was supposed to play the part of the detective, she dropped out like on the day. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it was the morning of. So I had no choice. Basically, I had to like fill in. I was like, okay, fancy clothes, like, you know,
Mhm.
so for that I had to do it, and then every other moment it was like that, where like someone dropped out and it was too late to find someone else.
Mhm.
But for her and him, a new one, that one I basically, for the most part, I planned for me to be in it, and for it to be my first like role where I was like, you know, that I consciously, you know, decided that I was going to be in it, although still for reasons out of necessity, other than just like, you know, I'm just going to be in it, because like, you know, because like basically this was the first project that I've done that's more like traditional within COVID.
Mhm.
And for this one, I was actually supposed to do another short, but like for that one it required more people, and then I started getting nervous about um you know, about people, you know, like, being honest about testing, and then, you know, making sure that everyone, you know, after they get tested, to stay, you know, quarantined and safe, so that they don't infect anyone on the set. And also the fact that it was, you know, that one also was going to be all indoors, so we're going to be you know, inside a place. And you know, like I mentioned before, I don't work with a lot of people. Like, it was going to be 5 people at most, including me. It was going to be 3 actors, and then, you know, 2 people crew, including me. But like, still, that's a lot. And then it was still like a lot for me at the time to like, you know, make sure to stay top of everyone, that everyone's like, you know, stay safe. And it just was too much, so I had to pick something else to do. So then I picked this one because, you know, that one just needed 3 people. So it was just me, Carolina, and then one person in crew, basically. And and then I decided to be in it because I knew that I could count on myself to, you know, to get tested and also stay at home, because you know, I don't, you know, because right now I'm not working anywhere like that, like requires me to be around people in public, so I'm able to, you know, quarantine myself in that case. So that was the other reason, like, you know, for like safety, basically. That was kind of like, you know, I at least there's one less person to worry about, and now I only have 2 people to worry about now.
Yeah.
So for this production, it was the first time that we, you know, basically, you know, had to like, you know, work with COVID in mind, where everyone had to get tested and everyone had to stay quarantined, and everyone thankfully, you know, honored those requests. Well, not requests. It was more just like a rule. Like, you had to
Yeah.
do it. Like I said to, you know, them, that like, you have to get tested. If you don't get tested, you can't be, you know, on the set,
Mhm.
basically. And thankfully, you know, everyone, you know, honored that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing because Local was also shot during COVID, and
And that was a lot of people in that. I mean, it looked like
yeah,
from the trailer. So I
yeah, yeah,
imagine like a,
and we weren't fortunate enough to be, you know, able to get a bunch of tests because like for some Orlando's just the worst,
yeah.
and we were also traveling to other places. But
Mm.
basically, I took like a safety course for film, like making films and during COVID. And then it was basically just like, you know, if you're gonna have crew members there, space them out, make sure everyone's wearing masks, unless the moment you say action, they can come off for the actors. And
Yeah.
so I had everyone on an email chain, and I said, hey, you know, I still, because like we were gonna shoot it right in March, and then and but I still wanted to make it. And so like some months went by, I rescheduled some stuff, and I was like, okay, let's do this, but here's how it's gonna be. When you arrive, you're going to get temp checked, and we're going to have masks if you don't have one. But if you're not on camera and I didn't say action, they're on. Like, that's how it's going to be.
Mm.
And like, you know, this is no if and or buts about it. And even like people who would come, because sometimes like they won't be in the email, but I'll need extra crew, and I have people like on standby to come help, and I'll text them and be like, you got to follow all these rules or it's a no go. And they were like, no, of course. And I also just said, you know, hey, if at any point you feel unsafe, or if you feel we're not doing something right, please say something, and we will stop everything, and we will make sure that everyone feels safe. Because like and you know this, when you're directing micro budget films, you know, you're also the studio. So
Yeah.
people, when not just movie related, but you know, whether it's personal feelings or anything, they're looking at you. and they're like, what's the play? And you know,
Cool.
you have to be ready for all of that. And luckily we were in a big enough area to where we could space each other out, we could wear masks. And then for our second big location, we were at a friend's cabin in the middle of the woods, and he lives in the middle of nowhere. So he was like, I can guarantee you I don't have anything because I've been living out here doing nothing. And so we felt safe enough to go over there, and you know, things got a bit more relaxed over there because of how secluded the area was. And you know, and I also, you know, hey, like, make sure everyone feels safe. If any of you feel unsafe, all you have to do is say something, and we're going to work on it. We're going to stop everything and work on it. And luckily, nothing was brought up, so I was really happy with it. And you know, no one has texted me since and been like, "You asshole! I felt like we are unsafe." So I'm going to go ahead and assume like people were happy about everything. And I was. It was stressful, but you know, it was one of those things where everyone knew that there was a bigger goal, and everyone knew the steps they had to take in order to achieve it. And luckily, everyone was safe. No one got it. No one got remotely sick. Everyone was happy.
That's
And
good.
what I was surprised by, because like when I had to buy like temperature checkers and masks and all that stuff, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. So that was super nice.
Oh
And
yeah, the
just
temperature checker's not that expensive.
yeah, no, I thought it would be really expensive, and the one I got, like I made sure not to get like the cheapest one because you never want to do that on anything.
Yeah.
And but the one I got, it wasn't bad, and it worked perfectly fine. And I was like, that was surprising. So I was able to do that. But yeah, no, I mean, and here's the thing: making a movie is stressful on its own. When you
Yeah.
add in a pandemic, it's like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, like this one that I just that I just mentioned, like
mm,
I was stressed on that one in a different way that I hadn't been before. Because like before it was because like I mentioned, like I had too many people, or
mhm.
had, you know, or it was a lot, or it was a big thing that I had never done before. But this one, the stress in the back of my head was like, what if someone's sick or gets sick? Like it was just like
Dude,
that. And yeah, because it's like if someone gets like sick while making this, then it's my fault. And
yeah,
it's just like,
exactly.
yeah, it was really getting to me at one point. Yeah, like
Mhm.
I thought it was gonna affect my performance too at one point, but like but thankfully, you know, like when I guess like it wasn't a conscious decision. I mean, well, other than, you know, being like, you know, to myself, okay, like, you know, you're in the scene or whatever, so like, you know, act part. But like but you know, all those feelings kind of went away from the moment I was saying action to when I was saying cut,
Mhm.
basically. You know, thankfully that, you know, it was able to go away for like, you know, those few minutes.
Yeah, no, and I know exactly what you mean. And the one thing I'm disappointed in myself in regards to filming the local was we were originally going to shoot in March, and in March I was in decent shape. Not like I didn't look like a fucking superhero, but I was like, you know, I had been working on looking a certain way for the character, and I was like, and I never really done that before. And like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't like must like ripped or anything like that, but it was just like it fit the character well, and it was enough of a change to where like people would have been like, "Oh, you did some work." And then quarantine, and while I gained weight during quarantine, and while I was able to shed some of it before filming, I didn't get to how I looked in March. But I was like looked at myself and I was like, it's good enough. And we still made the movie, and I still think it looks fine. And everyone did great. And but like, you know, usually when I'm disappointed in myself, it's because like, oh, I wish I would have got that coverage, or why did I say we didn't need audio for that scene, or like something
Yeah.
like that. But you know,
Yeah.
that was the only time I was disappointed in just like my physical appearance. And
Mm.
you know, wish there was a time machine to go back to March, but at the same time, it's not like I was fucking, you know, so it wouldn't have made much of a difference to any person watching anyway. You know, it was just
Mm.
something that probably I personally would have noticed. So,
Yeah.
you know, because there are things that you wouldn't notice unless someone pointed them out to you.
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned them because I was supposed to do an entirely different short last March too. Like I remember it was literally like we already rehearsed it. You got a location locked. We did equipment, got all of it locked. Then the pandemic happened, it started getting worse. And then it was like the week, it was, I think it was like it was like this week, you know, we rehearsed. Next week, pandemic's getting worse. And then next week we're supposed to shoot. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Because like that was like around the time everything started shutting down. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to cancel it. And I feel bad because one of the actors in it, I've been trying to work with them again twice now. And so like that one I had to get canceled because of COVID. And then this weekend I was supposed to finally do a different short with them this weekend coming up, and I already had to cancel that one because of another cast member having a family emergency.
Damn.
And with, yeah, and then like, you know, we like, well, why don't you just like, you know, postpone it? But the thing is that like the one that had the family emergency, I've been wanting to work with her for a while. So I guess it kind of, again, in your shoes where like there's an actor that like you really admire them and you want to work with them, and like you kind of just want them. And unfortunately, this is like the weekend that we had was like the only spare time that she had, because she's apparently, because she told me she's working on a feature film, like some indie feature film. And and then she's like doesn't know like when she's going to be free next week, because like, you know, they had to postpone a few times because apparently like on their cruise some people like, you know, unfortunately, you know, got infected with COVID. Yeah. So they had to postpone, and they don't know like when like exactly they're supposed to shoot in March. But like that's the thing, because like now like, you know, like, you know, I was ready to do it, and then now like, you know, like, you know, I have to wait. So, you know, this whole thing is, you know, kind of been a bit soul crushing with trying to like, you know, like, you know, produce like, you know, as much content as you would normally would want to if things were normal. But unfortunately, you know, there's the things that you have to, now there's things that kind of, you know, that have to like hold you back or whatever. So it's kind of been like hard to try to, you know, get used to.
Yeah. And you know, with everything I've made, there's always a moment on set where you get that giddy of like, oh, we're making movies. And it's not like, it's not right at the beginning, but at some point you see some magic happen on the set and you're just like, oh yes, we're making movies. And it's what you kill for. Like you kill for that feeling, like whenever you go from project to project. And I've had to space out a bunch of time between my projects, which is unfortunate just due to like, you know, work and life stuff. But when we postponed the local, it crushed me. And then when it was finally happening, it still didn't feel real. And 2 weeks out before filming, my producing partner and makeup artist, well, it was going to be a new makeup artist, but my producing partner who I'd worked with for a while and our new makeup artist quit on the same day and made it like apparent like they're not going to come back to work on the project. And it was just like, it was like nerve-wracking too, because like I said, like I like having my people around me, and it was just like off-putting. And so we get to set, and like it's going fine day one, and it's COVID, we're nervous, we're trying, you know, and then that moment happened, we're making movies. And it had been so long since I felt that, and it was during a time where everyone was on edge, but it happened to everyone at the same time. And it's an infectious feeling. And it just, from that moment on, everything in my head was like, it's going to be fine. And it was just, if I could feel how I feel in those few seconds all the time, I'd be the happiest person alive.
Yeah.
So it's,
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I know. I feel the same way about, you know, with this project that I said that I was going to do this weekend, because like it was probably because like next to Maya, it was probably going to be the one of the most personal projects I've ever worked on. And we already, you know, started, you know, getting everything in order, and we did like, you know, like table read through Zoom, and I was feeling really, really good about the actors. And then the actors, they seemed to really like the material, and then they also were like on the same wavelength about everything. And, you know, and well, it's probably more because of like how like how personal the subject matter was to me. But like but you know, it was really, you know, I mean, it's not her fault, but like, it was just disappointing, that I had to postpone it. But that's kind of just like me, because well, one, I hate letting down the other actor down, because like it's twice now I've had to cancel on her.
Mm-hmm.
But like, but for me, I just love filmmaking. I love all that. I mean, like, I guess like I feel like I should be fine with having just done her and him, but like, but like I mentioned, like I was kind of stressed while making it, so like I wasn't really feeling good while making it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and while it's not personal to me, the subject matter, I mean, it's more personal to I would feel it's more personal to the actor that I co-wrote it with. But with that one, like I was more like kind of homaging like cinema that I've been watching now over COVID, from the Criterion. Like I was like, it's mostly I pitch it, I kind of pitch it to you that it's basically Last Tango in Paris meets In the Mood for Love,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And so like, so it felt great, like to have a good departure from other stuff I've done, because other stuff was like like the genre films that no business making, micro budget, like probably a sane person would have gotten like like a couple thousand, but like but it's just because I just love doing it, that I just that yeah, it's also because that I love doing it, but it's also because of the lessons that you learn from each project that you do. Because like with each project I learned something different and knew like, okay, I need to adjust to that, for if I ever try to do this again, basically. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, and like, lessons learned on every single set, every single movie I watch. And like, cause like, people always, oh, like if I want to make movies, or I want to do this, like what should I do? It's like, well, step number one, watch a shit ton of movies. And
Yeah,
and people are always like kind of laugh that off. And it's like, no, 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 like you can just do that and eventually be like, because I'm a visual learner. So it's
yeah,
like I just need to see how it's I just need to see it. And I don't mean, and yes, at some point every film lover, not just filmmaker, but film lover should like look up like best movies ever and watch that list.
yeah,
Watch terrible movies,
yeah,
because then you're watching it and you're like, I didn't like what just happened. What about it did I not like, so I can avoid doing that? Like it's
yeah,
just all that kinds of things. And and sometimes it's even movies you love where a moment didn't work, and
yeah,
you're like, ooh, and then you get it on DVD and you go back and you're like, all right, what about this moment doesn't work? Like why is it so, like what's going on here? And just that study, you'll learn more than any. And like, again, don't mean to disparage film schools, but like you'll learn more than from just watching movies than anything you'll ever learn at like an institution. And
yeah,
and like some people say like, oh, is film school necessary? It helps. And but
yeah,
I think the biggest thing is I do think you should go to college. And the reason I say that is because when you go to college, you meet people whom you've never would have met before, who
yeah,
are just as passionate as you about that thing. Because like when I was in high school, I was like the only person in town. Well, like there's maybe I think two other people that I can think of who were like film buffs and like or like just
yeah,
as passionate as like filmmaking as I was. And so it's
same,
like it's when it's two people, it's like okay, whatever. And then you go to school and you see all these people, and like for example, like you'll see like I don't know how to do visual effects, and then you'll go to school one day and there's a guy who's like, hey, I love movies, but my thing is visual effects. And you're like, where have you been, all my life? And it's just like,
yeah,
you find those people. And passion's contagious. And
yeah,
it's just one of those things that you got to do. And like, don't underestimate like watching movies, like, and sometimes you don't know the lesson that you're trying to understand. Like I mentioned earlier, expository dialogue.
yeah,
That is a very tricky thing, because
yeah, very,
sometimes it's needed, but sometimes you have to come up with ways. And like the two examples at the top of my head of like the greatest use of expository dialogue ever, well, three examples. One is in the original Terminator, and it's
Hmm.
when they're in the car and Kyle Reese is loading the shotgun and he's like
Yeah, yeah,
whispering to Sarah Connor. And it's because like they're literally being avoided and you're learning with the main character what's happening.
yeah.
And I remember watching that and being like, okay, that's a great way to do exposition. And then the 2009 Star Trek movie, there's a scene where, let's just jump 30 years. There's a scene
Yeah.
where Captain Kirk's hands like get puffy and he starts like puffing up.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
so
yeah.
Bones is taking him around, like showing him everything, but it's because they're trying to get him to be okay. But it's like disguised exposition. Like it's just like how it's like all the stuff he talks about comes into play later, and the audience needed to know it. But
Yeah.
in that moment, you're not thinking about that. It was literally disguised, and I was like, that was excellent. And then
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, when because that's a movie that's very exposition heavy, but like the scene
Hmm.
where they're explaining, I forget, I think it's when they just, I think it's when they find out that the Nazis are digging in the wrong place, and we know
Hmm.
that one of the, I think it's jelly beans or something, is the audience knows one of them is poisoned. And so
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
throughout the scene, he keeps about to eat one, and then he keeps talking. And then so while he's speaking exposition, the scene is so intense that you're in the scene. Like it didn't seem distraction. The movie didn't grind to a halt to give the exposition to you.
Yeah.
And I'm going on way too much about this, but I think a recent example, and this is a divisive movie, but I loved it, was Malcolm and Marie.
Yeah.
And there's a
It was
sequence
really
in
good.
there. There's a thank you. Someone else liked it. There's a sequence in there where the lead, John David Washington's character Malcolm, is talking about uh, the story, is telling like the lead, like he's basically giving the backstory to a character about in a movie that he made.
Yeah.
And because he's talking about film criticism, which I love when movies talk about film criticism, but he's talking about it and saying like, not everything I have to do has to be about one thing. Like I literally just want to tell a story about a girl who was a drug addict, and then she learned, and he's going on explaining the story of this fictional character.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the fight, Marie says, and like they had gone off to a different subject, but then it wraps back around and Marie says something like, then when are you going to start telling people that you made that movie about me? And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
they
yeah.
just did like an entire exposition character backstory, disguised it as a narcissistic rant, and then
Yeah.
brought it back full. So I was like, that is so good, like in terms of expository dialogue. So yeah, and like, but the thing is, like, that's not something I would have learned at an institution. That's something you learn just by watching and studying movies, and just you'll be surprised what you can accomplish just from watching stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I would say I kind of learned that trick from a combination
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, I like, watch a lot of movies. But then I was in my screenwriting class and my teacher pointed out like, the use of exposition in some movies, like smart ways to use it. And he pointed out a technique that a lot of screenwriters use that you just mentioned where there's a character, whether it's a main character or a side character that is new to the game or the world or whatever, and doesn't know anything. And then that, gives permission for the screenwriter to use a character to explain everything to that character because they don't know anything, just like how we don't know anything if we're watching it for the first time. Like my professor, he used the Godfather as an example of the first one when Kay, played by Dan Keaton, is at the wedding, and she's like, who's that? Who's that? And then Michael, played by
Yeah.
Al Pacino, he's explaining everything like that's Luca Brasi,
Mm-hmm.
So like, so he pointed that out, and I didn't notice that, at the time. Well, I mean, because well, for me, film school was kind of good because when I went into film school, I wasn't there to make films originally. I was there just to be a film critic, and I was like, well, I mean, like I wanted to be a film critic at first,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, I guess this is the closest thing they have to that because they don't exactly have a film criticism class
Mm-hmm.
at BC or whatever. So I thought this would be the next best thing. But then when I caught the filmmaking bug, then I, actually started actively, paying attention and learning everything. So when I was in screenwriting class, like I hadn't noticed that before. how like screenwriters, will use that. How like like the example I just mentioned, or Terminator that you mentioned, that Sarah Connor, she doesn't know anything, and then Kyle Reese has to explain everything to her because she doesn't know anything and we don't know anything, so we learn through her. So I always thought that was a really smart way. I haven't been able to use that yet, unfortunately. Well, I guess sort of in One Bad Day, I guess, because like the exposition comes from the interrogation room scenes, because she's being asked all these questions because the detectives need to find out what's going on. So I guess that, okay, so I'll take that back. That was the only time I used it. But other times, no, I tend to not use too much exposition. Like her and him in particular. I'm mentioning a bunch of movies that most people haven't seen, but but for that one, like I didn't really like the idea of, for that one in particular, being like, the audience being explained to like everything, like word for word.
I loved how you used visual storytelling and exposition in that film.
Thank you. I really tried to make an effort, because like I feel like sometimes in the past, like I either don't use too much of it and I rely a little bit too much on dialogue, I feel sometimes in the past. And for this one, I mean, I mentioned before that this one I was really trying to make it, I was really trying to go for something different that I hadn't done before in my other shorts. But for that one, it felt just right to not like, explain the past for everyone, and also to even to go so far as to keep the characters anonymous. Like if you notice, like the characters of the film, they don't refer each other by their names, and they're not credited as like like a said name. It's just like her and him. Because like I just felt like I just wanted to be like this moment in time where you're like kind of like peeking into these two like having this affair, basically. And it just kind of felt like that. But for me anyways, just to go back to the whole like film school thing, I feel like if you're not really sure what you're doing, film school is good for that. But like in regards to like learning like filmmaking, you could pretty much learn that just from watching movies and watching behind the scenes and all that, or just from looking up on the internet. You could learn the same things, but like if you're someone like me that you didn't know what you were doing, going in, film school is a pretty good way to figure it out, basically.
Yeah, and like I'll say some nice things about film school because I feel like I've been dogging on it too much. But
yeah, P.T. Anderson, you're anti-film school.
No, like I enjoyed my time in it. Like, but the thing that's fascinating to me about film school was where you learned is not where you expected to learn. Like, I had a film production class where I learned some stuff. A lot of it was just stuff like from, on my own research or watching movies, but I took a history of motion pictures class. And not only did I just obviously learn about the history of motion pictures, but I learned about filmmaking from learning about how it all started. And I think the key, what will make or break film school, is your professors. And I was lucky enough. I had 3 or 4 really great professors who I would always try to sign up for whatever class they were teaching. And my favorite class I ever took, it was an elective, and I think they only did it once. I'm not sure, they might have done it again, but it was from one of my favorite professors. They offered a class solely dedicated to slashers. And it was
I had that too in my
so fun, and just like the crazy stuff you learn, like the attitudes in America, like when the Manson stuff was going on and how cinema reflected that, and then how slashers changed and what was defined as horror changed. It was all great, but like, and you think, oh, well, how does that affect filmmaking? Everything, because then you look at the world around you and go, what are current attitudes about a subject? And you can make it out of something, which is what filmmakers were doing at the time. So no, I really, and I enjoyed my time in film school. I loved all of it. It's just, I guess it's because and I'm sure you've encountered this, is there's those some students who, let's just say, I'm trying to think of like a not too horrible way. those kids, I'll say that, who just think they know everything, who are pretentious as hell, who, you know, their opinion
Yeah.
is the only one in the room that matters. And it it was so annoying because I think this is just my personal philosophy. When you do anything, you should always assume that you're the dumbest person in the room, because that way you're going to learn most.
Mm.
And I just got some of those people. And there were a couple professors too who were just off their rocker. And like not even like, not even in terms of what they were like personalities, but there's some, like I took 2 writing classes. One of them was really informative, really helpful, because they even went into like the structure of like screenplay structure, because that was one thing I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to format a screenplay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, learning that was very helpful. And then I had one teacher who was, this is the one way to write. If you don't write this way, if you don't write this way, you're writing incorrectly. And if you're going to write something in my class, I need to know that somehow you did it like this. And it's like, well, that you're discouraging creativity. And because, you know, because I know people who have to have like every aspect of their world, like down to like what color shoelaces the person has on Fridays before they write a screenplay. And then I know some people who just start and then they work out the world as it unfolds. And both of those writers are excellent and do great
Mm.
work. And while there's one beneficial way to certain people and others, I feel like discouraging writing process, because even look at some of the greatest screenwriters ever, like Aaron Sorkin's writing process is much different than like Kevin Smith's writing process or Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino's writing process. Like just how people do things are very different. And
Yeah.
you know, and this is going to be a random ass sports analogy, but I played baseball for a long time, and it was kind of like, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Like, yeah, if a kid has like a weird batting stance, but he's doing great, don't bother him. It's just like,
Yeah.
you look weird, but it's working for you. And it's just like, you know, something that happens in filmmaking too. And yeah, sorry, that was a random thing there. But
Not that random.
end of the day, I thoroughly did love film school. I just think that if you go into film school thinking it's going to solve every question and every problem you've ever had, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like you said, it's like the professors make or break it. Because like I had 2 professors that were great, and then I had another 2 that were good, and then the rest were okay, and then there was one that was like, why are you even here?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm just gonna mention the bad one real quick. I had a advanced post production teacher that did not know how to use DaVinci Resolve, and he's the one that's supposed to teach us how to use DaVinci Resolve. It's like he was figuring it out with us. He was like, let me, go on Google, look at the projection, and we're gonna figure this out together and look at the instruction manual. Like that was him. And I was like, you're supposed to teach me. And then to this day, I still don't know how to use DaVinci Resolve because of this guy. Anyways, so that was the bad one. But the great ones, I had a different editing teacher who I wish to God taught the advanced post class that I actually took. She basically, so she was like basically the intro editing class, and then she was also film editing too, I think. And she basically opened my eyes to film editing. Basically, like she basically showed me that like film editing is like, I mean, we mentioned like the saying, like make or break it.
Mm-hmm.
She basically showed me that film editing is what makes or breaks a movie. Because like, yeah, an editor doesn't have anything to do if you don't film anything. And also performances are a big thing, of course, and writing's a big thing. But if you don't edit it right, it's all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And she showed me that. And I'm like, and also she pretty much is responsible for like why like I actually enjoy film editing, because like in my film school also, like I'm like one of the only, I'm like very like small group of people that like actually enjoy editing, and everyone else in film school freaking hates editing. They love like other things, like some people like visual effects, some people like like the equipment or wherever, but like very few people like film editing from my time in film school, at least. So like there's that, and then another great one that he taught my film appreciation class, so it's kind of like the history thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was also my screenwriting professor at the end. I mean, although he was a little iffy because like his whole thing was that he wanted you to write a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
like it had to be formatted like very technical, well not technical, but like he didn't want it to sound like a novel at all, basically. And
okay.
and then on the other hand, yeah, like the screenplay shouldn't read completely like a novel, but at the same time, like he wanted it to just be like very bare bones. It was almost like an instruction manual, the you know the description lines or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but that's so boring to read
Yeah.
and write.
Yeah, no, like
Like
you got to have some poetic significance in there a little bit.
yeah, I mean, like as soon as I was done with film school, I mostly threw that away. The only good thing, I mean, the only good screenwriting thing he gave was like making sure that everything's in there for a reason, and there shouldn't be any baggage in there, and
Mm-hmm.
also to proofread, and all that, like and then make sure everything makes sense. And he was the kind of professor that he would tell you like that's stupid, like that doesn't even make any sense, like
Mm-hmm.
why would he just like I don't know, like something like that,
Yeah.
like, why is he growing a third foot? That doesn't make any sense. Like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the film appreciation class, he was that was for me his shining point, because like, he took me all the way back to like the silent era, and then
Mm-hmm.
all the way to, like more like, well, I think he kind of stopped at the 80s. He never really got past that point. But like that was also too, like you mentioned, like you learn a lot from like seeing like how you know the pioneers did it in the beginning, and then seeing how it carries over to more present day stuff, and like and also trying to like get like some of the students who are like not exactly film buffs, like to kind of see like, oh, you like this movie, like you like Star Wars, well then you should like John Ford westerns, or you should
Mm-hmm.
like Kurosawa samurai films.
Samurai.
If you
Yep.
Yeah, like you should like that and stuff like that. And although it's funny because like that class really weeds out the people in there that think that, okay, there's the other type of students that there's the students that think they know everything, and then there's the students who are there because they think it's just like a freeload, and they think like like, oh, it's just like an easy A.
Yep.
That teacher would weed them out really well,
Mm-hmm.
because like like we were watching The Graduate. Although I mean, actually no, that's a bad example, because that was the one older film that everyone was actually paying attention to because it's amazing, that
Yeah.
film.
Oh yeah.
We were watching On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, the
Okay.
Elia Kazan film.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I was like, this is great. Half the class was like on their phones, like
Oh.
secretly trying to watch it, like secretly on their phones. And then he would like weed them out, like, give me your phone. Well, actually, I don't think he would go, give me your phone, because I think we're a little too old for that. But he would just be like, get out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it, pretty
Yeah.
much.
God. God. Okay. I'm I am a very calm individual. Like when it comes to like being stressed or being aggravated.
Uh-huh.
Dude, if I'm in a movie theater
Do not take your phone out.
and
Yeah.
someone's on your phone, like, here's the thing: 90% of the time, hey man, can you please put that away? Oh yeah, 90% of the time,
Yeah.
that's how it goes. But then there's people who just think that they're better than everybody else, and you go, hey man, can you please turn off your phone? It's really distracting. And they either don't answer you or say something snarky and keep going. I've been in a okay, this might be embarrassing, but I was watching the 2017 Power Rangers movie because I was fucking
There's
stoked.
something embarrassing. I saw it with my friends. We had the best time, and then I saw it again without my friends. Wasn't the same.
Yes.
Anyways, go on.
I know, I agree. Because like I saw it with somebody who was like grew up watching Power Rangers. So it was like
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of great actors started off in that movie when you think about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, dude in front of us was on, they were chatting. Like I don't mind chatter if it's like quick, like, oh, he's from this,
Quiet.
or like
Yeah.
about the movie, because it's all part of the experience.
Yeah.
But like they were chatting about random stuff and they were on their phone. And dude, I leaned forward and I was like, hey man, can you guys please stop? Like I'm trying to watch a movie. Didn't say anything, but they stopped for a while. And then they started again, and I just kind of grabbed their seats and put my head in between them, and I was like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Please stop. Or I'm gonna go get somebody. Like, and it's just like that is one thing where, because like I get it that some of the general public don't see how disrespectful it is, because like, you know, when you know how hard it is to make a movie and how long it takes, like just watch the movie, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, so I get some people don't understand how disrespectful it is, but it's just like, God, like it's the one thing, like if you want to get me 0 to 100, like have someone's like phone light pop up in a theater, like my God. Or no, when the title comes on the screen and you see the flash of someone for Snapchat, like
yeah, that happens so many times. Or dude. like that you remember that viral video that came out when Force Awakens came out, that like someone turned their flash on, or whatever.
Just like turn off the
flash, you fucking moron. Yeah, that, like that's that. Well, for me, like I think I'm a little too introverted to be like, hey, you know, turn off the flash. But like, you know, there are times where I'm like, you know, please, can you be quiet or whatever. Mm-hmm. If anything, my mom, she's the one that has no filter. She was the one that will yell from like we'll be like all the way at the like in like, you know, towards the top or wherever, and then like she'll yell at someone that's like all the way at the bottom, turn off your phone or whatever. Like she's the one that's like that. I wish I was a little more like that when I'm at the theaters, even though if I was, I would probably lead to a fight one day. But you know, who knows? Still, like, yeah, I hate that. Like, I mean, yeah, that's one thing, obviously, especially now with like our new appreciation of filmmaking. You know, people have spent months, years even, to make this movie, and you're just going to be on your phone in the theater, even though you paid to see it. Mm-hmm. So there's that, but it's also, you know, the audience experience. Like, it just completely ruins the immersion. If someone, if you're like, wow, like I'm in space or whatever. Oh, wow, like this person's about to die. I'm so on the edge of my seat. And then all of a sudden, what are you doing? Could you turn that off, please?
Yeah.
You know, like it sucks. Like, I mean, thankfully, lately that hasn't happened too much. Although, I mean, well, now it's like a whole other different thing. Because like now, like, I think that's the only good thing about like the half capacity thing, is that I feel like now like there's less people that are inclined to do that.
Yeah, like the people that are coming, it's because they really like movies.
Yeah, and then or like that, and then also like actually this weekend I just saw Minari in theaters, which was a beautiful film.
I haven't seen it yet.
And me, my mom, and my brother were the only people in the theater.
Nice.
It was just us. Well, actually, there was like an older couple like behind us, but they left after like 5 minutes in the movie. Maybe they were like, I didn't know I had to read, but I don't know. But like, for whatever reason, they left within 5 minutes of the movie, and for the rest of the time, it was literally just us. And then the week before that, I saw Judas and the Black Messiah in theaters.
Great movie.
Which was great, also. And it was just like 5 people in total there in the auditorium, including me and my mom. So like that's the good part. But like when I saw but even before that, like when things were normal, like thankfully when I would go to the theater, I would be lucky and there weren't a lot of people, you know, like on their phone or talking. Or if anything, like if people were talking, it was because we were watching a Marvel movie and we're all like cheering or going like making jokes or whatever. But that's fun. Like, that's great.
That's part of the audience experience.
That's part of it, yeah. And I miss that because like,
oh dude,
because like we saw Wonder Woman in theaters, the 1984 spoiler story. But when we saw it in theaters, I had this feeling of like melancholy because like, you know, it was filled to half capacity, and there was like it felt like there were no fans in there, like no super fans. Like, I mean, then again, like when I've seen DC movies in theaters, like it's different from Marvel movies, because I think Marvel movies, I feel like it's more like or at least I think it attracts more enthusiastic fans.
Yeah, well, that and like the MCU just like made it into the pop cultural zeitgeist to where like you don't even have to be a Marvel fan, but you've seen these other movies, so you're going to be excited while you're there.
Yeah. Because my favorite theater experiences of all time have probably been from the last 2 Avengers movies.
And I'm gonna use this as a transition to our final topic. because I wanted to talk about this the whole time. I was finding the right place. Perfect segues. The theatrical movie going experience, unlike anything,
Oh,
anything, and
yeah.
it's something I miss. Theaters like you are open near me as well, so I still get to go. But I also saw Wonder Woman 1984 on the big screen. Wasn't I mean, while I'm glad I got to see it on the big screen, it wasn't the same without the super fans there.
Yeah.
Because like, dude, the first Wonder Woman movie, when that fucking no man's land scene happened, everyone was going crazy. And basically, and you mentioned 2002 Spider-Man, but to wrap this up, what are some unforgettable theatrical movie going experiences that you've had?
Well, I guess. Well, I should start with my earliest one, which I already, described in
Mm-hmm.
detail. But actually, both Spider-Man movies were kind of a big thing because, like, yeah, because the first one, well, I remember more clearly, but the second one I remember because I think we went to like a fancier like amphitheater or something. I feel, or at least, or maybe that's just my child mind, in like, oh, everything seems huge. I don't know. But I remember my uncle met us at the theater to watch Spider-Man 2, and he got me like one of those like foam hand things, but it was like but it was a Spider-Man hand going like this.
That's so cool.
And he gave it to me, and I wore it. And oh yeah, and the same thing when my mom thought that Harry Osborn was gonna freaking stab Spider-Man in the chest, and she started covering my eyes. And I was like, "Mom, oh my God, please take your hands off my eyes. I want to see what happens."
Yeah.
Anyways, so remember that. Okay, okay. Fast forward after that. I remember Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I remember. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen it, but I remember at the time, I think that was the most amount of times I dragged my parents to go watch it multiple times. I don't remember. I mean, although it's funny because like now, like I think it's like my second least favorite Harry Potter, even though I still love it. I mean, like, it's like picking your favorite child, but like,
Yeah.
but like it's like Chamber of Secrets is my least favorite now, and there's Goblet of Fire. Anyways, so but it's funny at the time it was like I loved that movie to death. Like I watched it like I don't know how many times in theaters. Okay, so there's that, and then fast forward longer. Well, this one's kind of a mixed, but like it's kind of interesting. Interstellar, I saw it in IMAX, and my dad. Oh, okay, so the theater that we go to, like, there's no like advanced seating, like you have to wait in line. And at the theater we go to, you usually have to get there at least an hour early because the line's gonna fill up and those seats are gonna fill. For whatever reason, my dad had this great idea that we park the car outside and just wait until the doors open there. And for some reason, I don't know why, none of like me and my brother didn't protest, going like, how this line is. We can't be here. For whatever reason, I don't know, remember why. Anyways, it was a great mistake because we got like, because like the way it is that stadium seating at the IMAX that we go to, and the screen, it's the largest screen in South Florida. We sat in the second row to the front. So I basically had to like use my foot to like kind of like push my seat back so I could see like this. So like that was the bad part, but the other half to it was the movie was so mind blowing to me. I think especially because I hadn't really watched 2001 yet. That movie was so mind blowing to me, and it transported me in a way that no other film had before at the time, that it didn't even bother me. I mean, of course, my neck, definitely was sore the next day, but it was like unlike anything else. Like it was incredible watching that film that way. And then we saw, and another big one was Pacific Rim. We saw that in IMAX 3D. That one was so much fun. Like me, like we all like, yeah, like it was me, my brother, and my dad. We all wanted to see it, and we were like kids, because like like for me it was like, oh, like Power Rangers, and my dad like Voltron and all that, and it was just like, yeah, like that one was like it was like so immersed, like Guillermo del Toro, man. Yeah, like that film was incredible. And then fast forward later, Force Awakens was pretty amazing. I mean, even though unfortunately looking back, it's like, damn, that was a wasted investment because of Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Rise of Skywalker,
No, I'm not a fan.
yeah, neither am I. I'm really disappointed. Anyways, Force Awakens, that
Conversation for
theater
another day.
another day. But the theater experience for the Force Awakens, like I said, I saw the IMAX 70 mil print, and it was incredible. It was so amazing, the feeling watching that. Like it felt like, oh, this must have been what my dad must have felt like when he saw Star Wars in '77.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like a kid, like because like Star Wars was such a big thing. My dad made sure that I saw Star Wars. Like we had the VHS box set of the original trilogy, and then we had the prequel movies, which I thought were amazing at the time, and now I'm like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, well, but yeah, like it was just like it was like nothing else at the time. Like it felt like like you're getting a slice of heaven watching The Force Awakens for the first time. Like you're like, oh man, like I can't believe Star Wars can be this good again. And then they screw it up 5 years later. But still, like uh, that was amazing. And then like I just mentioned, the last two Avengers movies, that was something to watch in IMAX with a theater full of fans. Although it's weird, like when I would see in a different theater, those like the audience wasn't the same. Like the enthusiasm, I guess the real fans go to IMAX. I don't know what it is in Fort Lauderdale, but I remember Infinity War, like how like hyped we all were. Like it was like the biggest movie ever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all excited, the audience was excited, we were all cheering, laughing, crying. And then I remember the silence when the snap happened. The silence was deafening in that theater. Yeah, like that. Yeah, that was really something. Oh wait, I forgot, I completely skipped over Blade Runner 2049. I don't know why I skipped that. That was one of the it's one of the few like movies that weren't filmed in IMAX, but like in the end was the one of the best IMAX experiences I've ever had in my entire life. Like that was the pretty much both Blade Runner movies are responsible for me being a filmmaker, and then that one was like pretty much like put the nail in the coffin for me. I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna ride till I die on.
Yeah,
like
and I'm gonna say something controversial here.
Oh,
I like the second one more, and I love
no. That's not controversial.
Yeah.
Like I honestly keep flip flopping between which one I like more.
Because like Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner is one of those movies where you forget how good it is until you watch it again, and then you're halfway through watching it and you're like, "Fuck, this is good." Like you forget, because then like there are some movies, like I've mentioned Dark Knight ad nauseum, but like that was the first IMAX movie I ever saw.
I wish I'd seen it in IMAX. Although that one was pretty influential on me, because that was the movie I was like, oh, you can make movies like that?
Yeah. And just God, I remember my audience when Heath Ledger did that pencil trick. they all went crazy. And like, yes, it was nuts. And like, but Dark Knight's one of those movies where I watch it like a couple times a year.
Yeah, me too.
But every time I watch it, I go in the mindset of like, all right, I'm ready to hate this movie. And I don't know why, but it's just like, I'm like, all right, maybe this movie is not as good as I remember it being.
But like, nope, it's still great.
And you get like 45 minutes in and you're like, God damn, this is so good. Like, why did I even doubt that? And then like, I remember the first time I saw Inception in theaters. And dude,
that was a confusing time.
The groans from the audience when that screen cut to black. Oh, I lived for it. And
I don't really unfortunately I don't remember my audience having a reaction to Inception really. But I remember I was like, man, I'm confused. I need to watch it again. So we saw it again, and then I was like, I get it a little bit more, and then every time I watch it I get something new.
Yeah.
So it's
and it's the first movie I was ever in where the audience cheered, where I'm like, oh, you're allowed to do that? Like, I didn't even know it was a thing, was when I was really young, but I saw X2, X-Men 2. And
man, I wish. Yeah.
and it was when Wolverine stabs that dude through the fridge and
Oh,
he's like screaming. Like that was the first time anyone in a theater was like, yeah, and like people clapped, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that at the movies. And then
yeah.
I got addicted to that feeling. And on the opposite end of the spectrum of emotion, I like people cry, right?
Yeah. As you
I
mentioned.
was a blubbering mess during Logan. Like,
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
and like,
You know
because
what?
like that was one of those movies where like there were scenes where people were cheering. Like, dude, when he went berserker mode and he's just
Oh
running through
yeah,
the forest, like,
yeah, that was a good one. I saw that in the normal. That was the first time I was in a normal theater, and everyone was like, "Yeah!" And I was like, "I'm so filled with testosterone right now. I want to
yes,
scream out." Yeah, that
yes.
was great. And
And
then right
then,
after that,
and like, the thing is, I was cool, right? Because like I'm a big X-Men fan. I'm like, I was cool. Everything's fine. We're fine. And then for some reason, my brain was like, you know, what would be funny if we suddenly reminded him of all the times he went to go see X-Men movies with his dad and with his family. And then so I started thinking about like every theatrical experience I had with X-Men, and that got me crying. And then that son of a bitch, James Mangold, took the cross and turned it into an X.
yeah,
That son of a bitch.
yeah.
And I like, dude, it was silent, and suddenly you just hear me go, and like people looked over, and I'm just like a mess. it was, it was so
I was a
gross.
mess. Yeah, man, I was a mess before that. I was a mess when he was, dying with,
Mm-hmm,
Laura holding his hand and all that.
mm-hmm.
I was like, I went to see it with my friends. We all were sobbing. And then one of my friends, he brought his girlfriend. He had his girlfriend to freaking comfort him, and was like, he was like in her shoulder crying.
That's
And
amazing.
then me and my friend were next to each other. And then I think I started sobbing, and then I think I started getting him sobbing because of that. He was like, "Oh God." And then and then there's this like stranger like and his family or something next to me, and he was kind of looking over like, damn. I
Yeah.
was like sobbing. It was completely embarrassing, but like it was the first time that's ever happened to
Oh,
me in a
dude,
movie theater. I've never sobbed like that in a movie theater. It was
that's
intense.
same. And another one I'll cherish is I like whenever I can, and I got the one good thing about COVID is I got to see a lot of classic movies on the big screen now. But
Mm.
right before COVID, they were doing a Fathom event for the original Richard Donner Superman, which I love. And I'm like, oh, I get to see it on the big screen. Yes. And I literally was going like for myself, like forget everyone else in this auditorium. Like I want to see this movie on the big screen. But then
Mm.
as I was there, it became very apparent that there was a family in front of me. It was just a mother, a father, and a child, probably like 6 or 7. And it became apparent like during the pre-show that the kid had never seen the movie before.
Mm.
So I got to watch a little kid see Superman for the first time at a movie theater. It was like everything you wanted to see the kid was doing. Like when Lois Lane falls from the helicopter and then he catches her and then the John Williams music goes, like that kid was like, yeah. And I was like, oh
Nice.
man, this is so great. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and like you said with Infinity War and Endgame, the two loudest cheers of like pure joy I've ever heard in a theater. One was in Infinity War when Thor landed at
Comes
Wakanda.
back. Yeah. Yeah,
Nuts.
that was crazy. Yeah.
And then in Endgame when Captain America caught Mjolnir.
That was intense. And then but then of course they top it with the portal scene. That was
Yes.
like it was like a symphony of cheers and
Uh-huh.
clapping and
Mhm.
crying. It was like one of the most cathartic theatric experiences I've ever had because you're like just like wide-eyed with a big smile and tears
Mhm.
streaming down your face because it's like this is
Mhm.
everything I've ever wanted to see as a kid.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I saw that movie I saw it 3 times, I think, in theaters. And I would have seen it more, but it was just so fucking long. And there's the first time I saw it with a group of friends, and of my group of friends, there was a girl who her favorite was Captain America.
Mm.
And she loves the first Captain America movie. And in the car, like mentioned on like before arriving, like, you know, it's just so sad he never got his dance. And then dude, when the camera cuts and dude, she like Logan cried. Like when I was like, she just lost it crying. And it was so just heartwarming, like how happy she was. And then the
Mm.
second time I saw it with my mom because I dragged her to see it. But her favorite anything ever is Iron Man.
Mm.
And so I knew going in, I'm like, this is not going to end well for my mom. So
Damn. You're cruel.
I know. And I was sitting there, and here's the thing: it's not just the fact that he dies, right? The light goes out,
Yeah.
that was like when you see that, and my mom was a mess, and I feel like I'm laughing at her, but just like. I like when I like manipulate people into having the theater experience, and that's totally what I did. It's just like you're gonna watch this movie and you're gonna like react to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was insane, dude. God, I just love movies and movie theaters.
Yeah. My brother reacted stronger to Iron Man dying than when Logan died. It's kind of funny. Like I don't know why. Like I never really considered myself before to be like a diehard X-Men fan. Like I thought, like I think I'm definitely more like MCU.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, I think it's just the scene, I guess, and the direction.
Oh yeah.
But like Logan dying killed me, and I mean Iron Man. Of course, I was upset and I cried. But my brother, he was the one. He was sobbing because like we, like everyone, like most everyone, we grew up watching Iron Man. I remember seeing Iron Man in theaters and seeing it like multiple times.
Yeah, dude, I remember seeing Incredible Hulk because like when Iron Man had a post-credit scene, like I wasn't like huge on the internet at the time, so I missed it.
I missed it too. I didn't even know.
And then I saw Incredible Hulk, and motherfucking Iron Man was at the end, and I was like, wait a second. And then that's when you go on the internet.
Connect.
And then someone's like, there's a post-credit scene after Iron Man. I'm like, what? So I got my DVD of Iron Man, I popped it in, and it's Nick Fury. And I'm like, oh, what? And it was just like, I remember doing that. It was so fun. And
I think we figured it out the same way. That's funny because I didn't know for a while, and then I saw Incredible Hulk. I was like, huh? And then I was like, wait, what? Wait, you hinted at this? What? And then then you go back to like, this is the best end credit scene ever.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. God, the magic of the movies, man.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
And then and then I was gonna mention that I already mentioned Tenet. Like, it was a nice like welcome back because I saw the print. But I was gonna mention that like watching like older movies, like I mentioned 2001, but like watching older movies that you didn't get to see in theaters, re-release is really interesting. Although like unfortunately that haven't been the best experiences. I mean, except for 2001. But like I found that like when I go to see them in theaters and it's like an older movie, like I feel like that's when like the people that like freaking ruin your experience with like having a phone or talking, they always show up to those. Like I watched Apocalypse Now in IMAX when they released the final cut last year, and there was this guy that would not stop talking, and this guy in front of him freaking threatened him. He like turned back in his seat. He's like, can you like shut the fuck up before I beat the piss out of you? It was like this old guy that he looked like he fought in Vietnam too or something.
Yeah.
It was like this old guy with like long white hair, and he turned around in his seat and he's like, "Could you shut the fuck up?" And then thankfully he shut it up. But like, actually, well, thankfully he shut up just in time for I don't know. You seen Apocalypse Now? You know the scene when they stop at the bridge and it's night and the flares are going around. Thankfully, the audience shut up for that, because that was the one scene I was like, please, I don't want to hear anything except for the movie when that part comes on.
Yeah.
And thankfully they did, and it was great, overall. But like I saw Blade Runner in theaters. and I saw The Matrix in theaters. And in The Matrix, I was like, yes, finally. People were on their phones and
Oh
talking.
God.
It ruined it for me. I was like, I should have just stayed fucking home.
Yeah.
And then and Blade Runner, there was like one person on their phone, but like thankfully it was just for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like yeah, it's just, it kind of sucks that like I feel like those, like, why are you gonna why are you gonna show up to watch this movie, you know, re-released in theaters, if you're just gonna be on your phone the whole time? Like, because you're making me feel like I should have just stayed at home and just watched it on Netflix or wherever, which is probably what I could have done, but I wanted to because I want to see it the way it's supposed to be seen.
Exactly. And
But like, you're ruining for me. Like, why are you doing that? You could have just done that at home.
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Because like the movies that I hate that get ruined the most are horror movies. Like people who are talking or laughing or like talking at the screen. That gets annoying when it's on a grand scale. Like if you do it once because it's a scary part happened, like whatever. But like when people are continually talking, it drives me crazy. But at the same time, it's like they're doing that because they're scared shitless. So I guess the movie worked. But at the same time, it just I want to be like fully fucked up when I watch a horror movie. Like I want to be like scared. And last thing, a couple of theater experiences is ones I didn't expect to have great reactions, and then they did. One of them was Ready or Not. I love that movie. And the end of that movie, people were clapping and cheering. Amazing. Like that was such a fun experience. And then
that was a fun movie.
Yeah. Another one was Joker. It was silent the whole movie, but as soon as the end popped up, just standing ovations, which you don't see very often at like a regular screening. So I was like, that was very cool to see. And you know, and sometimes even if it's not for me, like I saw Star Trek Beyond in theaters, and I like Star Trek, but I'm more of a casual Star Trek fan. I'm not like a Trekkie by any stretch of the imagination.
I just really like the J.J. Abrams ones, honestly.
Yeah. And I saw Star Trek Beyond, and there was a huge Star Trek fan in the theater. And just watching them watch the movie was worth the price of admission. And yeah. But yeah, no, it's like the last 10 minutes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in a theater was ridiculous.
Oh, that's another, I forgot to add that to my list. I saw the 70 mil print of that, and I saw it at the Cinerama Dome. But there was a trade-off. The AC didn't work, I don't think, that day, because we were boiling in our seats. Like I was like we started, I was a little bit damp, and then by the end, when like, you know, at the end of the movie, my shirt was like was wet.
Damn.
Because I was like, I was already hot, and then like the stress kicked in because like you didn't know if like they were gonna make it or not. I was like sweating, and my mom, pretty much my parents hated the experience. They were like, "Oh my god, I just want to leave. I don't care about that stupid movie. I'm hot. I'm uncomfortable. I'm sweating." But like, but at the so like, yeah, that was a little bit of like, kind of like, you know, took away from it a little bit, because it was really uncomfortable. But at the same time, it kind of did add to the experience a bit, because like Tarantino movies, they always feel like really hot, and you always feel the atmosphere in his movies. Like I don't like, that's something I've kind of noticed, like whether it's hot or cold, like, you know, Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
But which, you know, I mentioned I didn't get to see the print of it, but I saw it in theaters, and it was the first Tarantino film I saw in theaters. So it was really cool. Anyways, so Once Upon a Time, we actually got to be at the Cinerama Dome, and Stephen Merchant was there from
bastard.
Well, I saw him, like he was like talking with like his wife and like some like fan, I guess. But like, but it's funny, we're all in the line together, and like so we all saw it, and like, yeah, like everyone in that theater was a Tarantino fan, like. And then also, I guess, an LA fan, I guess, because like there is that montage where like, you know, it's night and all the lights turn on and all the shops and all that, and then they show the Cinerama Dome. Round of applause, and then everyone was like, everyone was laughing, people clapped when the title card came up, a film by Quentin Tarantino at the beginning. Like that's how when I saw that, and then I heard the reaction, I was like, oh, everyone here loves
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Yeah.
And then and then also another hint that everyone was a Tarantino fan was, the mid credit scene with the
Yes.
red
Yeah.
apple tobacco commercial. Everyone was dying laughing when he said, "Get some red apple tobacco." Everyone got it, and then my parents were like, "Huh?" But yeah, like, so that was fun. Even though, like, yeah, but that was the thing. Like, I don't know if that's how the theater is, because like I understand, like, it's old, but like I would think they would have AC in there. Like, I mean, it was like painful, honestly, because it was in the middle of summer when we were there. So but okay, but that's the last one I'm gonna mention. That was a really, I mean, again, like we understand there was a bit of a trade-off, but watching a Tarantino movie with a bunch of Tarantino fans was awesome.
So cool. So cool. Well, dude, this was so much fucking fun. Thank you so much for coming on here and doing this. We're definitely gonna do this again at some point. And but before you go ahead and tell the good people where they can find your films, where they can find you, and just plug yourself. Do all the things.
Okay, I'm gonna plug myself. Okay, so thanks for having me. First of all, yeah, this was really fun. You can find my you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. My Instagram is Electric Dreaming 1982, and then my Twitter handle is Electric Dream I1. And then you can find my short films on my YouTube channel, which is under Electric Dreaming. And then you can also find my short films on Vimeo, which is under my name, Julian Morales.
Awesome, awesome. Again, bro, thank you so much for doing this. We're definitely going to do this again. And yeah, man, thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Thank you for having me. This was fun.